Hi, we're on. Whatever, y'all.
There we
Oh,
go.
there we are. Thank you.
That's never good.
All right. Welcome everyone to the December 19, 2018 Neshoba Regional School Committee regular meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. And if it's okay with the committee, I'm going to flip a couple of items on the agenda. We've got the Neshoba Regional High School choral group here. And I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Clenchey so that you can do the introductions.
Sure.
And then please get us all in a festive mood, y'all.
So I'm gonna tee it up, and we'll have your director kind of let us know what you're gonna do. Before we go anywhere, though, I want to say I was there on Friday night for the concert. Amazing! Oh my gosh, the harmonies, the selections. Your attention to detail, the phrasing, the dynamics, like amazing. Just what an amazing night. The Chief Tones, loved them. And for sure, I think Rudolph was probably my favorite with the unified choral group. I think that was probably my favorite of the night was Rudolph. The band, the jazz selections, oh my gosh. It was just, what a great night. You couldn't have had a prouder superintendent sitting in the audience. I'm so proud of you, so thank you so much. So Rachel, we'll turn it over to you and we'll have you introduce.
Sounds good. So festive-wise, we've got 30-second Fa La La for you. And I'm sorry, it's only 30 seconds long. And then we're going to sing a song actually from our first concert. They picked this one to share with you. It's Ain't It That Good News, which is a traditional gospel hymn. So, let's get that. Our perfect pitch pipe.
That's a skill.
Forgot to mention too, this is chamber choir. I usually bring concert choir here. But I wanted to bring a different group, and also there's been illnesses and whatnot at the high school, so it's not the complete group, but we've got a good group here. So, thanks, Laura. 1, 2.
I got a crown up in that kingdom, ain't that good news? Ain't that good news? I got a crown up in that kingdom, ain't that good news? I'm gonna lay down this world, gonna shoulder up on my cross. Gonna take it home to my Jesus, ain't that good news, good news.
I got a harp up in the kingdom, ain't that good news?
Ain't that good news?
I got a harp up in the kingdom, ain't that good news?
Ain't that good news? I'm gonna lay down this world, gonna shoulder out my cross, gonna take it home to my Jesus. Ain't that good news, good news?
I got a robe up in the kingdom,
Ain't that good news? I'm gonna lay down this world, gonna shoulder up my cross, gonna take it home to my Jesus. Ain't that good news, good news? I got a Savior in the kingdom, ain't that good news? Ain't that good news? I got a Savior in the kingdom, ain't that good news? Ain't that good news? I'm gonna lay down this world, gonna shoulder up on my cross, gonna take it home to my Jesus. Ain't that good news? Good news, good news, good news, my Lord.
ain't that good
Good
news?
news, my Lord. Ain't that good news?
That worked.
That works. That definitely works. Oh my gosh.
That was beautiful.
Thanks for having us.
Oh
We
my
really
goodness.
appreciate it. Can you come back like every meeting? Please. 6 o'clock. We'll make the time.
Thank you so
much.
Just
Enjoy your time off, guys.
beautiful.
2 more days, 1 more day. 2 more days.
2 more days.
You can do it. I can do it, you can do it. And I got a 4-hour meeting, you can do it.
Yeah, that would work. That we do.
That's her.
You guys can do that, right?
Well, yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you
bye.
so
Oh, that was nice. Ah, take a deep breath. Everybody's rushing to get to the end of the week. All right, so we're going to return to the agenda. And the next item on the agenda, since I flipped them on you, is citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? Could you tell us your name and the town you're from and which item on the agenda you're referencing?
Yes, my name is Liz Davis Edwards. I'm from Bolton, and I'm referencing the Emerson survey.
Okay, so typically what we do, and I just need to say this for everyone, you know this anyway, but
Yeah.
Liz and I worked on this. Sorry, I'm going to go down rat hole here for a second. Liz and I were on the school council together at Florence Sawyer School. So we generally like to keep to around 3 minutes.
Yep.
To allow others who may have a comment to make it. I don't even have to say this to you, but I know you personally, but we want to be cautious about not calling out individuals. I don't even know.
No swearing.
I mean, you don't anyway. That would be my world. But anyway, why don't you go
I
ahead?
keep myself under control.
Yeah, go ahead, Liz.
All right. So we would like to make a statement, as I said, in connection with the Emerson survey, which is obviously on tonight's agenda. Among other things, the survey focuses on the well-being of our students, which we heard from tonight, which is so awesome, as well as the levels of drug usage across the Neshoba Regional School District. Our concerns connect directly with both of these issues. As you're reviewing the Emerson survey tonight, we hope that you'll take the following into consideration. First, having collectively parented dozens of NRHS students, several recent events in Neshoba Regional High School have fueled our concern that morale among students and teachers is quickly declining. Of course, this directly impacts the well-being of our students. These events include an Instagram activity by Maddie Fisher in which she shared her concerns about the administration, resulting in her suspension. The Neshoba Memes account, which similarly criticized the current administration, again leading to her suspension, or to a suspension. The Neshoba People's Front, rallying students to stand up to the current administration, again resulting in suspension. The 72% of students who answered no to "Are you proud to be a Neshoba High School student?" on a recent student-run survey, which we mentioned only directionally, recognizing that that survey was not perfect by any stretch. The teachers' roundtables, where teachers reportedly aired their concerns regarding the current administration. In fact, 35 of the 44 participants, or 80%, who made the effort to show up to those roundtables to discuss issues directly with the superintendent came from the high school. Secondly, vaping. In terms of drug usage, particularly vaping, when the Emerson survey was taken last school year, 33% of the upperclassmen in high school admitted to experimenting with vaping. Of this concern, CNN recently stated the following. The bottom line, according to Alex Azar, the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, is that the data sets we use for vaping have never been seen, we have never seen a use of any substance rise this quickly. They went on to state that according to their numbers, there's been a 78% increase in student vaping from 2017 to 2018. Unlike the authors of the meme accounts, when a student is caught vaping, they are not automatically suspended. We recognize that some efforts are in place to educate our community, and we appreciate those efforts, including the community meetings on the calendar. However, we feel that this is insufficient to deal with such an unprecedented problem that's increasing at such an alarming rate. I'm almost done. I know I'm a timer, sorry.
You're fine.
All right.
You're fine.
As a group of parents, we shared some of these concerns, as you guys know, last May. In the meantime, we've communicated in greater detail with the school committee and have met in person with Superintendent Clenchy and Principal Dina Minico. There remains a significant disconnect between the information we have received in these meetings and the information we have heard from others in our high school community. For this reason, we respectfully ask for more data about both the morale at the high school and the increase in vaping, as well as an associated action plan based on the results. We further request to be part of that process. We recognize that this is an issue for administration, not for the school committee, and have asked the same of both Superintendent Clenchy and Principal Dina Minico in our meetings with them. Given the school committee's responsibility over the administration, we've come here today to reiterate these concerns with the members of the school committee. Our objective here is simple. We love Neshoba Regional High School. Like you, we believe in the great and unlimited power of our community to transform students and open doors not only to their future and opportunities that lie ahead, but also to lifelong creativity, learning, and the power to change the world. We are here as stewards of this community to help identify and remove barriers to these high ideals. We look forward to joining with you on this errand. That's all I got.
That's enough.
It is enough.
Thank you for sharing that. This is a time when I have a really difficult time being the chair of the school committee because there are so many things I want to talk to you about. And I don't know why you guys haven't asked me to sit and talk with you, but you know that I would. I know all three of you. You know me, you know where I live. Call me and I will give you my input, but you're absolutely right. At this point, and at points earlier, we turn it over to the administration and we say to the administration, what's going on? Look into it for us, and we're assured that they are. So at this point, I can't offer because we can't influence, we can influence. We cannot contain what's going on in there. So I'm going to turn this over to you if you have anything that you want to share, or if you would like to follow
No, thanks,
up.
because I think what she's saying is precisely what they had said to us in our meeting that we held earlier. So she's not saying anything here. I don't think that you haven't already shared with us. So none of this was new to me tonight.
So why don't, I'm just going to make this, I know I'm not supposed to, but I'm just going to make this invitation that you contact me and meet me somewhere and we'll have a conversation.
Will do.
Understanding what I can't do and just so that you feel that you're being heard. I understand. Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. The only update I have is to remind everyone of the January 26th budget workshop. I think we're starting, are we starting at 8?
We generally start around that 8 o'clock mark.
And just plan on the entire morning.
Yeah, we generally
And
go
a
through
little
till-
bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more.
And get a lot of sleep the night before, because it's going to be a long one. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Delisle.
All right, so starting off, switch it up this time. We'll start with arts. The cast list for Neshoba's upcoming musical Mary Poppins was released last Thursday, and rehearsals begin after break. The show will be held the weekend of March 17th. The winter band and choral concerts at the high school, as well as the middle schools, were held recently. You guys just got a preview of what they were like. There was a sock drive held at the high school concert, run by one of the school's bus drivers, who aimed to collect as many pairs of socks as he could and donate them to various homeless shelters around the area. There will be a holiday assembly this Friday at the high school where the concert band will perform their set for students and members of the community. For sports, the winter teams have all begun their seasons. Unfortunately, the boys hockey team started off their season with a 5-2 loss against Hudson High School on Monday. The boys basketball team is 2-1 after defeating Narragansett and Shrewsbury recently, but losing to one of their biggest opponents, St. John's Shrewsbury. The girls basketball team also defeated Shrewsbury High School yesterday 42-36. Indoor track had a meet on December 6th, and we are still waiting for the results, but it is looking good for the Chieftains based on the individual performances of many of the athletes. And the middle schools have also begun their basketball seasons. So for some events, some high school seniors as well as middle school 8th graders went to see A Christmas Carol for their field trips yesterday at the Hanover Theater. The Neshoba Cup is back at the high school where the different classes will be able to compete to see who has the most school spirit. So far the seniors are in the lead. This week is Holiday Spirit Week at the high school, today being Ugly Sweater Day, and everyone wearing an ugly sweater earned a point towards their class score.
Hers is not an ugly sweater.
Would you
Hers
like
lights
us-
up. Would you like us to
I
see?
think Elaine
I give my
should
points to the front.
model.
Because I'm sure they need them.
I think you should model.
And Neshoba Stuco Student Council is holding a hat, mitten, and sock drive this week to help those who are less fortunate during the holiday season.
So can I just make a couple of quick comments here? First of all, with regards to the socks, if they found the one pair of mittens in that pile, it was for me. I'm going to own that right now. Because I did not have a pair of socks, but I did have a pair of I just want to own that. The second thing I would say is that game the other night, the Friday night game, was a nail biter. Oh my goodness. And the other thing I would take note of is I've never seen so many 6'2" elves as I saw that night.
Yeah, there were probably 5 in the front row, I'd say.
Yes,
Yep.
there were. And Santa Claus is everywhere. It was, I mean, it was such a cool night.
I know
It
we
was
all love
such a
the
cool
spirit.
night.
Spirit
Oh.
nights.
It was just so fun to watch, and they were saying that somebody had mentioned in the crowd that they've never seen that much spirit at a home basketball game like they'd seen that night.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And what I took several fan pictures. None of them turned out really well enough to tweet out, but the excitement in the crowd that night was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I loved. Oh yeah, sure. Oh, there they are. Yes. I thought I was joking about the 6-foot elves. There were all kinds of lots of ugly sweaters. I mean, this whole group, it was amazing. It was just a great night. Thanks for bringing that up, Alita. I appreciate that. Anyway, hats off to everybody. Thank you. Thanks very much for your report tonight.
Does anybody have any questions for Colin? No? Congratulate your sister for me.
I will.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Where's his ugly sweater?
Elaine's wearing. Okay, superintendent's report, please.
Sure, thank you. I'm going to go through this quickly because I know we've got a long night. So Todd and I will try to be as quick as we can. And I know here's a picture of the concert Friday night too. There were almost more people on the stage than there were in the audience that night. It was so packed. If you can imagine, the stage was full of kids, and between the stage and the seats were full of kids. I mean, it was an amazing night. It was an amazing concert.
Pretty crowded in there.
It was very crowded in there, but what a wonderful evening. It was just really, really nice. So I just put a little note here. It's been a season of music in all of our schools. It really has been, from the concerts to sing-alongs. You've got some sing-alongs coming up, I know, on Friday, and I think you'll be taking those in on Friday and getting your voice all ready to join in right there. So we want to thank everybody for all of their efforts in the area of music. It's been a great season. The new sports seasons, I just want to make another comment or two. As always, of course, I'm always so appreciative of the athletes. I mean, they are center stage. I mean, I totally get that. And I think what struck me the other night in watching such a tight game is the determination of our kids, the perseverance, the grit, but the sportsmanship was just so cool. I mean, just so amazing. So, but I think we never want to lose sight of the fact that, yes, it's the athletes, but it's all the other people behind. It's your AD, it's your parents, it's your fans, it's, the people running the concession stand selling all those pizzas.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how many pizzas they went through that night, but they went through a lot. Everybody that's involved with that, the volunteers at the door, the people running the score clocks, like it takes a village, and we just do a great job in Neshoba. So I just want to do a shout out on that too. So you're going to talk about the S3 Academy and the Points of Pride, and then I'll wrap up with the last item.
Great. In terms of some components, some happenings around curriculum, teaching and learning, we recently applied for a grant through the Department of Education, which announced a new Systemic Student Support, or S3 Academy, aligned with its Safe and Supportive Schools initiatives. Neshoba was one of several districts selected to participate in this. The Academy is actually sponsored and facilitated by the Rennie Center and Boston College Lynn School of Education Center for Optimized Student Support. And it focuses more on K-8 programs in K-8 schools. It includes 3 in-person workshops, one in December, which a variety of us attended last week, one in February and one in April, and then 2 virtual webinar meetings, one held in January and March, and it's designed to deepen practitioners' understanding of the critical components of a system that effectively and proactively identify and address students' strengths and needs for social emotional learning and the impact that it has in the classroom. As I mentioned last Wednesday, several district administrators, teachers, and support staff attended the first workshop session, which was designed to introduce teachers and administrators to new and innovative ways to address social emotional learning in our K-8 classrooms. So we're excited about receiving that grant. The next one is our commitment to communication and points of pride. So Raina Rago, our director at Extended Learning, is reaching out to area local papers and news media for our next Neshoba Pride article. It's going to be focused on points of pride in our middle schools with, again, a focus on social and emotional learning. Each of our middle schools will spotlight what they are doing with advisory programs to continue to personalize learning experiences and connect with one another during the school day. The article will also highlight our middle school programming and upcoming events and celebrations at each of our schools, as well as our new extended learning programming that's been mentioned here several times for grades 6 through 8 and the camps that are coming up for February and April for our middle school extended learning program. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, very exciting. It made me think of it too. Normally I don't put that kind of thing in here, but just FYI, Matt Ettinger is going to be sitting in with the state and helping to support the revisions to our health and wellness standards, and he's going to be our representative, which is really great because there's not a representative from any school district. We happen to have a representative here that's going to sit on the statewide revision, so very proud of Matt, so thanks very much for him doing that. The last piece that I'm going to put on here is about our technology tasting. And I see Laura's here. So Laura, maybe, I hate to put you on the spot, but you might be able to talk to it a little bit better, speak to it a little bit better than I can. I just thought it was amazing. Both Todd and I went over, but maybe you can just give a brief overview. Laura Friend is our, thank you. Laura Friend is our principal at Luther Burbank. And Laura, I'd like to point out that we have a picture here of, this is Steve Grant in his fine attire. And if we shift, I think I've got a picture of you in your attire as well. Yes, there we go.
Thank you for that.
Yes. It was such an amazing thing. So why don't you just quickly speak to, I know, sorry to put you on the spot.
No worries. So it was much in the theme of a book tasting, where you taste a little bit of a book before you decide which book you really want to read in its entirety. So we took that idea and kind of ran with it with technology. And we chose 5 different technology tools that we think are really robust and great for our middle school students. And we did a technology tasting. So there were 5 different facilitated teachers. We had 2 teacher leaders running 2 of the stations. Martina Kenyon, Cindy Larson, and Greg Newton also ran a station to total the 5. And then we had cheese and crackers, sparkling water.
I was going to say ambiance, you had the music going, the dim lights, it was
and the
amazing.
teachers rotated through each technology station to get a taste of that technology for 5 minutes. And then at the end, we had them complete a survey about which technology tool they would like to learn more about in detail. And that's going to be the focus of our January staff meeting.
That's awesome. You even had a menu board up.
Yeah.
And the invitation, a formal invitation with little pieces of pizza.
They didn't have a choice not to go to the staff. But it was still fun.
It was so fun.
And the teachers appreciated it. So.
Yeah. So
I'm very grateful for all the support that we were able to garner to make that happen. So
very, very, very good. And you know, I was talking to Gary today, and he and Greg are so proud of it too. And so I said, yes, we want to see that replicated now throughout the district, because it was just.
We have absolutely no problem stealing that idea and incorporating it as well.
Anyway, it was just fun. And so thank you so much, Laura. Sorry for putting you on the spot there. Oh, so I don't know if you noticed, this is not on the list here, but did you notice the pictures when you came in? So the first set of pictures, this is Todd Sauerhouse, he was hanging them that day for us. There'll be signage that goes in between each one of these. Bolton was the first one. We put Lancaster because it's got the longest name in the middle, and then this is Stowe to the right. And then we also have a picture of each of our communities, one of the, I keep calling them legacy pictures, that will be hanging up in the new year in the high school for each of the communities as well. Nice. So very excited about that. And the signage that we're putting up here, when it gets in, and if we like it, we think that we will be in the same signage at the high school. And then the last picture, which is probably my favorite picture, I cannot tell you how many gingerbread houses we pulled together. And I'm not going to lie, I was at Mary Rowlandson the other day. I'd like to say helping a young lad, but I think I ate as many marshmallows as I helped him put on the house. It was so much fun. So hats off to everybody. What a great holiday season, a winter season that we just had. It was just so much fun. So thanks to everyone. But for sure, that was my favorite picture. I just had to put it up there for you. So I tweeted it out earlier today. So that's it for Superintendent's report.
That's a good one too. Let's see how the rest of the meeting goes. Okay. Thank you, Colin.
Nice
Have
to
a good
see you.
night.
Happy holidays to you.
I'm going to ask Pat Maroney, our business manager, to come up and share with us the October-November treasurer reports, the October-November results of operations, and then she's going to give us a facilities update. So we'll turn it over to you.
The treasurer's report.
Yeah.
First, please. So, I'm presenting the October treasurer's report and the November's treasurer's report, and it looks like, the cash flow is right where it should be for this time of year. And if anybody has any questions about anything,
You guys have any questions on October or November? No? Okay, moving on.
Next is the results of operation for the month of October. Anybody have any questions about anything?
You want to give us the highlights, Pat? What's going on in the budget versus actual column?
Yes, in the budget versus actual, you can see in the insurance and benefits account, we have just a little bit of a surplus, and that is been consistent the last couple of months. So we're going to, that should continue throughout the school year, barring any major changes. In the system-wide, you can see that there's a difference between October and November. If you want to just flash into the November report too, we can look at the two of them, because it's probably best to look at a comparison between the two.
And I don't think that we're looking for you to go through every single one. I think I
Just
just
the highlights.
highlight any.
Right.
Like I say,
This would be the only one, the only two that there's major change, because it's actually in November. In November, the insurance and benefits went up a little bit, and then there's a major change in the system-wide, and that had to do with the turf field debt payment that came in, and it was actually posted in November. So there's actually a change there.
You're always going to see an ebb and flow in these numbers.
Right, it's always going to change like that because of when it comes in, it gets posted to one account, and then usually I have to do some journal entries to put things into the into the funds.
Yeah, but isn't a debt payment, wouldn't that be considered a projected expenditure? I mean, that
Yes,
seems
it is
fairly
projected.
predictable, so why, I don't
And we
understand why that
cover-
wouldn't be baked into projected expenditures, because there's a $200,000 swing there. It went from being $100,000 in the hole over budget to being $100,000
Right,
under
and the
budget.
reason why that happened is because when the debt assessment came in, it came in the month of October, and I corrected it in November, because part of it's funded by a revolving fund, and that's the way we budgeted for that. So that's why there's such a big swing in that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, again, I don't understand any of this, but is the October, I just pretend to. So the
Okay.
budget versus actual column, the last figure for October, is that what's left in the budget or not? That 357,143?
Yes.
Okay, so for November,
You do understand it. You're bad.
I just sound like
Moving
I don't
on.
know. All right, so for November, it's 594,193. Why is it more in November?
Because at this point in the year, this is when we start to have like, in September, we have all of our new employees come on, and we wait for the bills to come through from Blue Cross, and then we have to adjust our projection going forward. So there are some changes there, and as you can see, the change, the swing from the 99,000 negative to the 101,251.
Oh,
See, that's why it went up that amount.
so So
So
where
was
did
there
the money
reimbursement?
come, was it, yeah, were there monies coming in to make that
Yes.
flush? Okay, so
From
money
where is what she's,
Right, and actually, what happens at the end of November is everybody is settled in their insurance, and things start to settle down, we start to know where the money is, we start to see information that we can base our assessments on, so you'll see some changes in those two accounts.
So the money comes in for like 4 times a year and that
Monthly.
monthly, and that reflects what comes in, and that's the adjustments.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
It's a little complex, but.
I know.
any other questions? Elaine?
So Luther Burbank's already over budget for the year, not to put you on the spot. Laura.
Yeah, I looked at that one too.
But like, was there something unexpected? Like what happened there? What do you think the rest
It
of the
was
year looks like?
personnel, the personnel that we had talked about in the budget process.
The change that we made by moving somebody from this building over.
Right, and that's reflected.
The administration, the addition.
So does that mean that so if there's a deficit in that line, then there should be an overage in another,
Yes,
which is where?
at the high school.
Remember the switch? So that's where it came from.
So where would that, I don't see the high school in here though.
It's right there with the ribbon.
Oh, okay, got it. But then there's still a 30 to 20 something $1,000, $28,000. So what's, or $18,000, that, no, but
But that's,
how many?
7.
7? No.
Between the high school.
No, that's not where you were thinking though. You were just thinking the total cost.
Right.
So is that a question, Lorraine?
Yeah, I guess to piggyback on what Elaine said, so that was the movement from one staff member
Right.
from one school
from
to
the
the
funding
next.
for one
Oh,
to the other.
okay,
Right, because it went around.
okay. Good. Any other questions? Good? All right. Facilities update?
Facilities update. So we'll start with the bleaching field at the high school. The hydrogeological permit application was submitted to Mass DEP on November 27th, and we're in the 45-day review period right now. We expect that it should be ready to go sometime in mid-January, so we should have the final okay, and then that will be the first step in the process to continue and go out to bid for the cost of the remaining part of that project. The next item is the high school oil tank. We had a problem with our high school oil tank that we were taking some water in the containment chamber that it existed, and basically what we did was we had brought in a company to take a look at it, and they came up with temporary solution, but in midstream we had to change vendors because they weren't reacting quick enough for us to be comfortable with, the building without heat or anything. So we contracted with a new vendor who was very responsive, and they have a temporary tank in place, and we expect to have a plan for what we're going to do going forward in the next couple of weeks.
And they've cleaned the water out.
They've cleaned the water
Everything is
out.
out.
Everything has
So we're
been
waiting
done
now for the
that we-
report to come back.
So we don't have an estimate on what?
We don't have
We
an
don't
estimate
have an
right now.
estimate at that, we're waiting for that
We're waiting
now.
for it.
Lynn?
So this is an ongoing issue from when you first started, which was 2.5 years ago. So the initial review of what was going on with that tank, did they ever find out, or did they fix what was going on back then?
They thought they had fixed it,
They thought they fixed it.
and it didn't take, the fix didn't take,
So there was no warranty or anything for the,
and the water proved to be more of a problem than we thought, and it literally broke everything, so.
so
So the people that did the work don't have to, did they?
No, it wasn't that type of a fix. It was and to be honest with you, I think we're also gonna have to, we'll see what comes in. I don't wanna speak at a turn right now because I don't know what's gonna come in January, but I think we're gonna have to take a look then and see how much money are we going to put into this.
Because this doesn't, are there gonna be multiple estimates, like what, one to fix and one to replace? Because it doesn't sound like this is worth.
Well, there are multiple scenarios there. It could be that we can't replace it, that we
don't
can't
have a
repair,
choice.
we won't have a choice. But we're going to look at all of those options once we have all of the.
So is there an engineer looking at that, or is, how is that being?
We
done?
have, the company that we have working on it is looking at it right now, and then that will have to be submitted for approval. The town of Bolton has been in contact too with the DEP, so.
So would that be a warranted issue at that point?
Would there be a warranty, you mean, at that point with this new vendor?
Well, like whatever the solution is, will there be some kind of a
Guarantee.
Oh, I see.
I would
I would
for a
think,
guarantee
yeah,
of
I would
work.
think that.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, you're without heat?
Oh, no.
No.
No, she's got
This
temporary
happened on
tank.
Friday
We're good.
afternoon, and basically was resolved
But you got, but
with
But this
temporary
is a
tanks.
temporary solution for something that's been going on for 2 years.
Oh, no,
Oh,
it's
no, we're working
20-some
on a
years.
permanent
This has been
solution.
this has been problematic. Like, if you talk to folks who've been around, they said it's always been this issue. This isn't an issue just in the last 2 years. This has been
Okay.
problematic for years.
Mm.
Okay.
But we tried to fix it within the 2 years, but the fix wasn't good enough.
Okay. On to the center school fire suppression tank pump had a problem back, about a week ago?
About a week ago.
About a
yeah.
week ago. Basically, this tank holds the water for the suppression of fire and the
The sprinklers.
yeah, so basically what happened was the submersible flow valve had to be replaced, which is something down inside, so we had to bring in somebody to repair it. We've been in communication with the fire department and the town of Stowe administration, and basically it's all been repaired. Everything is up to where it should be, and we're moving on from here.
Yeah. So this is just a sensor.
Right.
good.
It's a sensor.
So she understands the stuff.
I know.
Well,
She's
I'm
our like
just-
resident.
I'm just wondering, I mean, how did they find out that the sensor was broken? I mean, did.
It kept calling for
It was
water.
calling for water and it would have burned out the pump.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
yeah, that's not.
Well, then
Yeah, and that would have been more of a problem, so.
I just want to thank our Stowe administrators too, because they were so quick to work with us. Like always, I mean, we've got great relationships with our towns, but this is one of those situations where you're just really grateful for the relationship that you have, that you can knock on the door and say, by the way, this is what's going on. We've got a major problem over there. So they were great to work with.
Yes, they were.
In the
That's
oil
it.
tank, in the oil tank we did.
Yeah, we're
All
good.
right.
We've talked about it all.
Any other questions for Pat?
So I have a question. Where this is going. Will we actually have cost estimates for fixing the oil tank before the budget season is wrapping up?
We're
Like,
hoping.
what-
That's what we're aiming for.
We told them that we need some pricing on that with
Okay.
a couple of different options, if possible, so that we can make a decision before the budget
Right.
process
Yeah.
ends.
No, we're acutely aware of that.
Well, this is
Right.
going to the town managers first, right?
The oil tank, the high school is a little bit different.
It's ours.
But it's over 10,000, huh?
It doesn't matter.
ours.
Doesn't matter?
At the high school, we own it.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's why we went to the Stowe right away to deal with that, but the Bolton situation, or the high school situation is a little bit different.
Unless it was Joel's building. Joel's going, phew. Okay, thank you, Pat. Appreciate you coming in.
And,
Oh, you got something else?
I got something else.
What do you got?
The DECA donation, acceptance.
Oh, okay, so we're moving on to new business. Thanks for moving the meeting forward. Decca donation acceptance and so forth. Let's keep it going.
I'm not gonna leave. Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, you brought it up.
Sorry.
You have the floor.
Okay, I have a letter here from the Eastern Bank. Their charitable foundation has issued a check for $1,000 to our DECA program. And I would like to ask for your acceptance of this donation.
I move that we accept the donation of $1,000 from the Eastern Bank Charitable Foundation in the amount, oh, did I say $1,000 yet? Yeah, to support Neshoba Regional High School's DECA program.
Lovely. May I have a second? Thank you, Steve. Any conversation, questions? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Motion passes. You have a question?
So, does the DECA program, do they individually go out and pursue grants? Or is it?
I don't think so. Paul, I'm probably going to turn to Paul and Pat on that. I don't believe that they go out individually to solicit. That's not my understanding.
No, but they don't, but through their strong community relations in terms of working with businesses throughout
The program
area.
itself, the DECA
The
program.
kids do. Have you seen any of the so the kids go, I mean, and Mr. A and his partner up there.
Yeah.
They go out and they talk to all those businesses, and then the businesses are the recipients of the really kind of cool work.
Good work that they do. Yeah.
So I'm sure that that's just that's lovely, actually.
But it's basically their own PR.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, action, yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, here we go, guys. This is the test. Neshoba Regional High School Music Department overnight travel approval request. We can do this. We did it. We figured it out. You all figured it out.
We're getting better. I don't know if we're exactly where we need to be, but we're getting better.
No, we need to be where we need to be. So let's hear what you got, Superintendent. Oh my goodness, Principal D.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No offense taken.
Again, a 4-hour commute, but go ahead.
Well, the paperwork, you've seen the paperwork, but what I can say about the field trip, the proposed field trip itself, is that it's 60 kids going to Disney down in Florida over the vacation week, so no school would be missed. And I think what's most appealing about the field trip, as Rachel Glenister and Joe McCarthy explained it to me, was the emphasis on performance. So it's not just a field trip to look at things and be a passive tourist, but they will actually be performing in Saratoga Springs at the Disney Marketplace. The choir will have a performance, the band will have a performance. They'll be working with professional musicians in the studio, receiving auditioning tips, and they will also, one of the activities that Joe and Rachel designed was looking at Disney through the eyes of a musician. How is music used to tell the Disney story while they're down there? So when I hear the two of them talk about this trip and the fact that it's not missing, students aren't missing any school time, to me it's a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, so questions. Kathy?
On a field trip such as this, is a nurse or an EMT or somebody with a medical something, do they go, or what are the arrangements for that?
No, part of the process is of course students looking at each individual's medical history, but there is not a nurse. One of our school nurses is not going on the trip itself. There are 6 chaperones. 3 are 2 music teachers, Rachel and Joe, David Bailey, who's an accompanist, and then 3 parents are also going on the trip.
Just related to field trips, are there circumstances under which a nurse or an EMT would go?
Yes, and actually Lisa is right here, and Lisa perhaps can help to answer that because she just happens to be in the audience.
Yes, it's determined on state to state. So even sending a nurse to Florida, we cannot practice in Florida without having a Florida license or reciprocity state, and Massachusetts does not engage currently right now in a compact state, they call that, where other states in this area do, where they can practice in more than one state. Other instances, when we go out of state, you can call the Board of Health, and if it's under 24 hours sometimes, they will allow you to conduct nursing practices at that point. And then in the general of field trips, it is a case by case. So depending on if a student has diabetes, if we send a nurse versus in a different school, we may not send a nurse for the same type of diagnoses based on the competency level of that student in nursing. So the nurses do look at the entire list of students going for every field trip and including this one, because when I saw the list, I went, ooh, 60, whoa. And really take go through it with a magnifying glass to make sure that we're covering our bases and that students are healthy and ready to attend.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Lynn, you had a question?
I did, and it's on the form.
That's okay. Todd's excited about that.
One of our policy things is that if any overnights, you'll be fingerprinted. And you need a check mark for that. Where does it say the fingerprinting?
No, it's Corey.
It's just Corey.
It's just Corey check. It's different.
But aren't the teachers already fingerprinted?
That they would be, but 3 of them are parents.
Huh.
And that was one of our policy things when we changed all that fingerprinting policy. It's just overnights needed fingerprinting.
Okay, well, we can take a look at that then, and do the addition to that.
They have a lot of time.
This time,
No,
this
I
time,
think
yeah.
I think that's great. But it was just.
Oh, it's a great, great catch.
We have to finish this thing.
Yeah, that was right.
Do we have any requirements as the number of chaperones versus the number of kids? Is the ratio, does that matter at all?
Usually 10 students to 1 chaperone, so it's 61 students to 10 chaperones. They're getting that mark.
Mike, you had a...
Yeah, just a quick question. The to be determined, does that mean that the approval form is incomplete because we officially don't have the 6th?
What are you referencing for to be determined?
When they-
Yes,
yes.
Sorry, to be determined.
Mike, when they put this in, that chaperone was not determined. There was still something up in the air, but since that time, it has been determined. So I'll have that 6th name move forward. I think when this paperwork was submitted, there was still some question as to that. But
Okay.
in talking to Rachel yesterday, they have nailed down that 6th person.
Okay.
And all the students have already signed up?
All?
The 60 students have, yep, they're
61.
61 students.
Steve has a question. Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed that the total cost to the student is $1,800. Do we have any students who need some help with that?
Yeah, yeah, and the Friends of Music, as they always are very generous, but the students engaged in quite a lot of fundraising leading up to this. Simple things, well, I call them simple, but they're kind of commonplace things such as selling fudge, car washes, to mattress sales, a fundraiser at a local restaurant, a couple local restaurants, and then Friends of Music tried to put together a bigger event. It didn't fly this time around, but I think their plan is, they've learned from their mistakes and will work on it in the future. But these fundraisers certainly helped.
Are there any kids who will not be able to go because of the cost of this?
None that I'm aware of. I think any student who expressed interest and worked as part of the fundraisers, Friends of Music really tried to make that happen. So none that I'm aware of.
Great question.
So, where are we going with this? Do we want to vote on the updated form? What?
Do we want to just make it contingent upon making sure that everyone is fingerprinted and receiving the name of the 6th chaperone?
We could do
that.
Actually, I'd rather wait. It's the first time run. It's the hardest. So
No, I'm just
it's got
throwing
plenty of
it out
time.
there. Yep.
So if we get the fingerprinting on there, and boom, we're done.
So, at this point, go ahead, Susan.
The fingerprinting thing, that was something we just reviewed in policy.
Did we not vote on it?
We've been reviewing that since Brooke arrived.
Yeah, but I think to your point, I can see where you're going. It hasn't been finalized so you're right, that final vote hasn't been taken on it yet.
So, here's what we're gonna do. So if somebody wants to make a motion and wants to make it contingent, because it's not impinging on any of our policies, you could, or not, right?
Well, I move that we approve this field trip to Walt Disney World for the band and chorus, contingent upon getting the 6th chaperone's name and knowing that that person has been quarried.
And that that anyone who's a chaperone has been fingerprinted.
We did.
Oh, so
I thought we said we don't have that policy.
Because you don't have that in policy.
Yeah, it's not
Alrighty
policy
then.
yet.
So you don't
do
need
we
it.
have a policy at all?
We have a policy.
So we don't need the fingerprint.
Yeah, you don't need the fingerprint.
What she said.
Yeah, what she said is right.
On the front of every website, at least the last time I looked, unless you've changed them, it says you will be fingerprinted if it's overnight.
Okay, so wait a second. We got a motion on the floor. I'll let you talk in a second. Is there a second on this motion?
Second.
Steve? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So unless it's been changed, on the front of every website for every single school, it says if you're going overnight, you will be fingerprinted. If you're a chaperone for overnight. That's true. Because there was the volunteer. Thank you.
So
whether we have a
let's
policy
be,
or not,
so
it's
let's, why don't you, could you
So,
please
you know,
explain what a Cory check is? And
Well, I think Anne Marie can probably explain that
and
better
so
than
just give
anyone.
people perspective.
Sure, the Cory check is criminal offender record information, and that's from Massachusetts. The fingerprinting is nationwide, so that they go in, they have to go in, you have to give your fingerprints, and then it goes to the FBI, and so it encompasses the whole country. The theory was that, someone could have been a bad actor in another state, and then said, oh, Massachusetts, I'll go there because I don't have a record there, and come here and be a bad actor. So now we have both the Cory, which we do in state, and then the fingerprint, which has a cost associated with it, and that's nationwide. It's a lengthier process, as you might imagine, because it has to go from the fingerprinting place to the FBI and back.
Okay.
How do we identify people going for a Cory check if we don't have fingerprints? Just their name and their social security number?
It's a process.
It is a whole process. Yeah.
It's a process. So, okay, so we have a motion on the floor, we have a second, and the motion is to approve the field trip contingent on the 6th chaperone being identified and Cory checked. Does anybody have any other comments they want to make before we take the vote? I'm looking right at you because I know you want to say something.
Yeah, I'm articulating, sorry, I was saying.
No, it's okay, that's why I'm waiting.
I mean, particularly, good catch, Lynn. I realize that the policy is still being reviewed, but, Lynn is right, it says on, so what is when there is that discrepancy between something that we're saying here on the website, and saying overnight field trip volunteers and chaperones must be fingerprinted, it's required, it says. And so, I don't know how long a process this is for getting fingerprinted.
So Anne Marie?
It's a couple of week long process, but if my memory serves me, I think it was 2 years ago when the policy subcommittee decided to go with at least the practice, if the policy wasn't adopted, at least the practice was going to be that we wanted anyone who was going to be in a car with a student or anyone who was going to be on an overnight to also have the fingerprints.
So, Mike.
So it's a matter of whether we're going to follow the posted policy or the stated policy, right? A posted policy in terms of the website versus...
No, that's not a policy. The policy doesn't say that they have to be fingerprinted. There's reference to it on the website, which is not part of the current policy.
Okay,
but in our new
voted on.
revised policies that Susan and the policy team have been looking at, that will end up being part of the new policy that's voted in when all those policies are approved. So, I'm just going to throw this out there. You go ahead.
Well, I would agree with Elise. I think, Lynn, it was a good catch on your part, and it's uncomfortable for me that we've got two things that are not in sync here, and so I think, Lynn, your point is valid. There's a piece of me that's saying, quite frankly, there's only 3 people here, so I do wonder if we can't go back and ask them to get their fingerprints done right away. To me, I don't know. Anne Marie, is there any way of having it expedited?
No.
No.
You're talking about the
but there's
FBI.
time.
They got enough on their plates right now.
2 weeks?
Months.
Oh, 2 months.
2 months.
Actually, 2 months.
But we need to kind of move on here, so I'm going to push this to the vote. All those in favor?
Susan. Well, yeah, so.
Oh, Susan's got something. What you got?
Does it say discretionary?
Another comment?
Well, there's an A policy that Alita just gave me. That's I'd have to read it. So in creating the form, did you, I don't know, like, was that taken into consideration, the overnight travel, or was there just a disconnect between?
I'm not sure about the form. I don't think I was involved with that.
I mean, I'd have to read this, but.
All right, we're gonna move forward with the vote. All those in favor?
I'm just worried that they do need a fingerprint.
There's,
Was that part of
unless it violates policy.
I'm saying there's an A policy. It's not in the overnight field trip policy. There's a policy in section A.
Okay. Let's
yeah.
defer this to the next school committee meeting. I mean, we gotta finish the vote, but if it fails, we can defer it. So, all those in favor? No, it's fine. 3. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The motion fails, does not pass. So, pardon?
Susan, Lorraine, and Kathy were yeses?
No, I was no.
No, it was Elaine, Susan, and me. And then everyone else was no. So we'll defer this to the next meeting.
I think in the meantime, Principal Domenico, I would suggest that we have those people go and make application for fingerprint ASAP.
Yeah. Change the form.
So,
yeah,
right. I hear we need to get this in sync so that we don't find ourselves in this position. And you know, I don't feel bad. Honestly, like this is. Please don't take this, or please take this in the spirit it's intended. It's okay when we find things like this because it gives us a chance to fix it. So I'm not uncomfortable with this at all. I think from my, so if I can just say this super quickly, I think the process worked this time. I feel good about what's been submitted. I appreciate you coming. I feel that you were well versed in it. So it's nothing about presentation. It's just about a glitch right now that we need to fix. Yeah, a process. And I'm very comfortable. But in the meantime, I would speak to those 3 individuals and see if we can't get the fingerprinted right away. Process started.
Even because we know at some point it's going to be in the policy.
It's going to be in the that's right. So,
at some point, so we might as well
and I do
get
think
in
it was
the
a good
habit
catch.
now.
I'm glad you caught it.
All right, moving on. Emerson Youth Risk
No.
Survey
No.
Review.
Athletics update.
Athletics update. No! Please! Ms. Rich, our athletic director extraordinaire, you've had a crazy, crazy year.
Yes.
You've had a pretty impressive career.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, it's been a good 7 years.
Don't go anywhere. All right, we'll turn it over to you to talk to us about the athletics update and fee review.
Awesome. So I'm going to give you a quick fall sports update. As you just mentioned, we had a very good fall season. All of our games, we had great crowds, a lot of school spirit. The kids have been picking themes for all of our games, like gets them really into it. Our golf team placed second in the league championship this year and qualified to play in the district meet. Our cross-country teams competed in both the league meet and district meet. The boys placed second in the league and 7th overall in our Central Mass district. And Alex Vitez of our girls team placed 3rd overall in the girls district meet. The boys soccer team improved this year. On the girls side, they were league champions and qualified for the postseason. The volleyball team had an overall record of 17-5. They were league champs. They were able to host 2 home playoff games, which is the first time in school history. And they won one of those games, which to date, that was the best season for them. They were very excited because it's the first time they actually won a playoff game. They've made it, but they've never won until this season. Our field hockey team had an unbelievable year. They had an overall record of 21-2. They were league champions. They were Central Mass Division I sectional champions, and then they were state finalists. They ended up losing 2-1 in overtime in the state finals at WPI. The football team ended our fall season at Gillette Stadium. The team went 12-1 this year. They were league champions. They were Central Mass Division IV sectional champions, and they won the Division IV state title at Gillette. I also want to mention that I want to thank all 3 communities because when we got back into Bolton that night, we had fire trucks, police cruisers, and EMS meeting us down at the business center, and we had a full escort back to school, which was amazing.
From all 3 towns.
All three towns were included, and that was the football team, the cheerleaders, the band, and our fan bus. Everybody joined together to get back to school that night. This fall, we had approximately 335 student athletes competing on 17 different teams. We have seen a little bit of a decrease overall in participation over the last 5 years. It's about 20 less students per year, but I also think we're seeing a decrease in enrollment, so I think that's exactly why. 5 years ago, we were over 1,000 students, we're below, so I think that just makes sense. 77% of our fall athletes did make the first quarter honor roll list, which I was very pleased with. So far this fall, we've had 3 student athletes sign letters of intent to play collegiate athletics. This was an early signing period. I see more coming this winter. In February, we have our next signing day. And then I just want to mention that the winter season has started. Fall and winter did overlap this year because of the football team going to Gillette. It's not something to complain about. It's always a good thing. Winter started. We've got 255 student athletes at the high school playing on 15 different teams. So far, teams are doing well, and as Superintendent Clenchey mentioned, the fans have been great, and their themes and everything they've been doing has been a lot of fun so far.
Awesome.
That's pretty much our...
Any questions on that record? Probably not. Congratulations.
That night, coming back from Gillette and standing, none of the pictures I took that night of the high school worked, but it was like this purple hue with all the, a series with all the blue and the red lights. If you were standing back and just looking at the high school that night, it was just incredible. I'm sure they could see it from space because all the lights were, it was amazing. And, being on the sidelines, of course, and watching it all starting to come together that night was just...
It was a special night.
It was a special night.
It was great. One of our Bolton police officers actually had We Are the Champions playing over the loudspeaker, so you could hear that as everybody was getting off the buses. Yes. It was very loud.
It was just the best. It was just such an incredible experience.
We started sizing the boys for the rings today, and they are beyond excited. They were running in and out of my office all day long trying to, what size do you think? Like, what fingers should I wear it on? And so that was a lot of fun today.
Thank you so much for all you do. The fee, maybe just chat a bit about the fees, and I know that we've all had communication on this, so and I've mentioned our thinking to Chairman Ramosko as well, so maybe just put your thinking out there too.
Yeah, so last year, as you're probably aware, we did raise our user fees at the high school, and now we have a 3-tier system where students pay $175 for their first sport, $150 for their second sport, and $125 for their third sport. And as talking with Pat and everyone about this so far, I think we should stay status quo moving forward so we can still collect data and see how this works. I feel like just changing too quickly, I think we need at least 1 year to 2 years under our belts before we start looking at where to go with our fees.
And the other thing I just want to add, so appreciate the proposal. There's now a family cap, which we've been getting requests for. School committee had been getting requests for a family cap, so really appreciate the work that you did on that. So there is no vote to be taken because there is no change. Does anybody have any questions?
Here's a question of the committee. So philosophically, are we saying that we think that athletics, because it is technically optional, I mean, I'm not trying to pick on athletics because I think it's an important part of the student experience, but are we saying that we don't think it should be self-sustaining? Because we've gone through a series of fee increases over the last couple months. There was kindergarten, there was lunch programs, there was extended day, and preschool that we kind of said, well, we're trying to get to the point where those are self-sustaining programs. So is athletics different? Like, what has been the
I'm just going to throw something out. That's a fair question, and I think it's a good question. And I'm just going to throw something out there, and then I'm going to toss it in your laps. But when we talk about pre-K and K, we're talking about staff. And it's salaries and it's benefits. And I'm gonna put you on the spot, I apologize, but I think your coaches are stipended. They're not on the regular rotation. That's not like they're not making, say they make $50,000 a year as a teacher, which that's not the average, but so what we're saying is and I'm doing this for the rest of folks, and I know you understand it, if this year going into next year it's a 2% increase on their salary, then we're looking at recuperating that 2%, but that's not what happens with the stipends. And how often do those stipends increase? Are they annual?
Yes.
They are?
But it's smaller.
It's very small.
You also need to keep in mind that we also receive gate receipts. We bring in monies from other places. So that's why we feel comfortable right now. The increase is just not enough to warrant this year making changes. Would that be fair? Is that a fair way of saying it?
Okay, Lynn.
But
the gate receipt.
Well, even the gate receipts, I would like to ask if the stipends are, do we supplement the stipends or are the stipends self-sustaining?
I think that's what Elaine just asked.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought about it from the salary and benefits perspective before, but it would be interesting to see.
But it would
that
make sense.
breakout
I mean, it
moving
would be
forward.
really awful if the money coming in, if the stipend was much larger than the money coming in. That would not make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also thinking about things like the athletic fields coming up, you know, there are.
Well, the fields are there. You know,
Well,
there's
so
the
the
maintaining of them,
maintenance.
and that would be the gate receipts and everything, which is what we've been talking about. But as far as stipends go, I mean, if we've got, 15 sports in the winter and 17 in the fall, and if the stipends are, I don't know how, what do they run, $5,000, $10,000?
Well, they're in the contract. There's a
No, they
they're
don't
nowhere
run
near
that
that.
No, they're nowhere near
They're covered by the
No,
fees.
because you and you and you and you would want one.
Contract and
I would
see
do
the
it.
salary schedule for stipends. And
So would it-
they're all determined and they're budgeted as such.
So just out of curiosity, if a teacher was on the higher end scale of the pay scale and another teacher on the lower end scale, so would the higher end scale get a higher stipend?
No, it's
No.
in the contract.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at the salary schedule for.
So the fees cover the stipends, or are we supplementing them?
We're supplementing them. Some stuff is in our budget, and then between gate receipts and our user fees, that's what we use to offset and pay certain things.
So we're not supplementing the budget for the stipends. We will
You're not
never see
supplementing the stipends out of the budget, is
Yeah.
what you're asking.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know if you have that answer.
I think,
I don't have the detail in front of me, and I don't
Yeah.
feel comfortable answering. I can.
we can take a look back.
So,
and- yeah.
why, can you do that? Can you figure that out and then come
Sure,
back and
I can
let us
tell you
know?
exactly where the stipends
And maybe
come from.
show us a 2 or 3-year trend? Does that work? Does that work for you guys? Yeah? Okay, all right, thank you. So at this point, we may call you back, but at this point, I think, thank you for coming and I appreciate all the work that you've done.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Sonia.
We're moving on to the Emerson Youth Risk Survey Review, and
And we're bringing Lisa Kubicki to the table to.
I'm sorry.
So I think you all know Lisa, and she's going to do a bit of a broad overview and just highlight some of the salient points, some of the things, some of the areas that we're taking a closer look at, some of the things that we're looking at doing some different programming with. So Lisa, we'll turn it over to you to start to go through quickly.
Great, thanks. Just a little history. This is the first year we're using this research company. Have you noticed a big difference from years in the past? I need a magnifying glass to see even with my reading glasses and some of these data, so it took me a little bit of time to get through, but it is different this year, so the format is quite different. I'm not going to go through obviously every slide. There's a lot of, I'm sure you spent the entire weekend reading it. There are 9 districts that are participating in this. We do do it every other year for those that are not familiar with it. And this report, when it refers to aggregate data, refers to results of all the surveyed in the district, meaning the 9 districts, not just ours as well. So we did try to do them, we try to do it every year on the same date as the other districts as well. This year was a challenge for all districts because there was a lot of snow, and we had a lot of snow dates around this time, believe it or not, in the March week. So we had to continue to keep making the arrangements. It was supposed to be done at the end of February. So we do 6th grade, 8th grade, and then 9th through 12. For Neshoba, we did 1,345 students that participated. The way this format looks like is they have questions. The question numbers are on the bottom, what grades participated in it, and the questions that are there. I have more detailed questions if you need any of those. Again, like I said, it's a new research company this year, so it looks quite different. So at a glance, we're going to talk about these as we go through, so I'm just going to skip over that unless somebody has any specific questions. These were recommendations that they made of certain things. The only recommendation we had, I felt, at the high school is we did it first thing in the morning, and we had students that chose not to come in and start their day after, knowing that it was almost like a student opt-out. Not to say that we're going to change that in 2 years from now, but that was an observation that we made within our own district.
Can we comment, do you want us to comment as you go along, or do you want to wait till the end?
Yeah, as long as we don't dogleg, sure.
No, I was, because I looked at page 9, and it's the recommendation for future, if nothing can be done, drop issue from YRBS, and then focus on behaviors the districts can address. So I don't know how they it is determined if nothing can be done. And then the other thing, focusing on behaviors that the district can address, and conversations that I have been a part of regarding the survey, many of the items, many of the behaviors, the at-risk behaviors, are not, they happen outside of school, and there's a question about how much can a school district, a school, address them. And alone. But cutting things out concerns me, looking at the at-risk behaviors, because I think that this is a value to us, but it's an also important and valuable communication to parents. And so I don't know the extent to which parents will be able to digest this and ask questions if there are parent nights or any of that stuff.
That's a really, no, I'm doing it. Okay. But if there was a way for the district, Lisa, you, Brooke, whomever, to put together a one-page overview of what were the key takeaways from this survey and distribute that to the parents, I think that would be really, really helpful. And I hate to put you on the spot, but I really do think that this is something that we do this, we cycle through this every few years. It is a big deal. People reference it, and then they contact us, and where do I find it?
Just the whole thing about vaping. Now, I got the impression that the parents that spoke, obviously are concerned, but it's in our lap. Why? Are we giving the kids money to buy vape? Oh, I'm not going to go there. No. You know what I'm saying, all right? But it's the same thing with drinking and texting and driving. It all seems to end up in our lap, and I think sometimes that's because people don't know what to do. And what is the approach to dealing with it? It should be a community approach, and that we should play a role in that, but. And again, it comes up, I've been seeing this ever since it came out. But anyway, go ahead.
So, thank you for that. We're going to let you move on, but I think if you could, given the work that you folks have done with your community open houses on this kind of thing, I think it would be really helpful to, it's just another way that you're reinforcing the work that's being done.
Yeah, every parent should read this.
Yep.
In some form that they can understand. Every parent needs to read
this.
So
give us
It will be available on the website as it is every 2 years. It's put on under health services.
But you know what? But you know what? I'm a parent of a second grader. My oldest kid is a second grader. And I think that, for me, I'm like, I don't get this. I don't even know what this means. So the takeaways of, I see what they're saying for recommendations, but even that doesn't tell me much. It's like, these are the things that we need to be aware of. These are the things that we have seen trends changing, and this is what the district's doing as a result of it. And I think you could do that really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thanks, sorry.
Perfect, that's okay. I skipped over the demographics. We didn't do it.
Yeah, let's get to the stuff.
We'll get to the meat of the stuff rather than, the grades. I'm sure, again, this will be available to all, not to go through every slide. The demographics were up there as well. This is, we're keeping about the same, the medium of sleep that kids are getting. We changed the question a little bit this year. The sleep question was changed in 2016, adding each school night, not just so it's the whole week, so how much are you receiving each school night, not during the week. And it was a medium of 6 to 7 hours. How much homework are we saying? Again, around 2 to 3 hours. Those that are in more accelerated classes are going to stay longer. Those that do not do homework are going to stay less. Again, it's a medium. And then screen time was, again, it's remaining the same that we've seen over the years. Looking at some of this, we out of school time activities, again, those are your athletics that we were just talking about, and we are seeing 87% of our students are actually saying that. And that's not just athletics, it's clubs, bands, orchestra, choir, and things like that.
How does that compare to the state, Lisa?
83% for the rest of the aggregate. I don't know the entire state, I just looked at the aggregate, but for the other 19, that's really good, we're 87.
That's really good.
It is. We're in line through this whole report. I feel like I'm just going to keep saying the same thing. We're right on line with the aggregate data of all the other communities. If not, we're ahead. We might be just a little bit below on some of them.
And who are we? Who are cohorts?
We are Acton, Boxborough, Ayer Shirley, Concord Kyle, Groton Dunstable, the Bromfield School, Littleton, Public Schools in Littleton High School, Maynard Public, Neshoba, us, and Westford Academy, Westford.
Oh, wow, that's great. Okay,
Yeah.
moving on.
Does that give you-
Thank you.
yeah.
I want people to hear it. 'Cause
Oh, okay.
I know that parents don't have time to necessarily read through all this, and it's overwhelming. Okay.
Yep. Breakfast and caffeine, again, we're maintaining what we're seeing every year. Caffeine's still kind of up there, which is, I guess we're run on Dunkin', so it's maintaining the same that we're seeing. We're seeing a little bit of a decrease in 8th grade, but 6th in high school with the caffeinated beverages, which can mean coffee, Red Bulls, and such. It's then broken down to 7 sections. Those were just the key highlights for them, but then we group them together. Wearing helmets, wearing seatbelts, and impaired driving. Again, we're doing a great job with it. Kids are wearing helmets. Obviously, the lower grades, we're seeing them more as they get into high school. They get a little bit more risky and don't use their helmets as much, but definitely wearing them during skiing and snowboarding. And we're seeing that also with our seatbelt use as well, which is really impressive to see that our students are reporting that they're wearing their seatbelt almost always. Again, we're right on line with the aggregate data everywhere else. The impaired driving portion of it is we're seeing more of cell phone use. If you look at the last 2 boxes there, drove while using a cell phone, sometimes, most of the time, or always in the past 30 days. We're not getting a big reporting on that, but then when we're reporting against people that we're driving with, we're seeing a higher increase. So it makes just something to be aware of. If we're maybe
They
not,
don't wanna
if
get caught,
we're
yeah.
texting that just that thumbs up, maybe we're not viewing it as that we're on our cell phone. But when somebody's in the car, they're saying that people are doing that. So just to keep that in mind. So we're gonna go to,
Do you have a question? 1 second, please. Do you have a question on
you
one?
want me to go back to something, or?
No, that's
Okay.
okay. I mean, I'm seeing a pattern here. What I'm seeing is a disconnect. And I don't know how you are supposed to fix it or even address it, but I was looking at the caffeine. And I know, I mean, I've got a child in middle school, and I know that her friends drink coffee, and I don't promote it or anything. So I'm seeing a disconnect, and so I don't.
What's the disconnect?
Well, how do you, I mean, you're not gonna take a cup of coffee away from, or a kid walks into school with a Dunkin', I mean, you're not gonna take it
That's
away
not
from them.
illegal.
No, it's not. But is it a problem? Is drinking caffeine a problem for a developing child? I mean, I have no idea. Are we saying that it is? Well, and here's the question. So there's the disconnect. It's like we're saying, oh, they drink coffee. Okay, is that good or bad? I don't know.
That's a judgment call, I think.
I'm just using the coffee one because I know it and it caught my eye. I mean, but almost every single one of them is the same. Using the phone, using the texting, using a seatbelt. There's a disconnect, and I don't. Back to what Kathy said. Okay, so are we the police? What do you do? And how do you make people aware?
I think that's a really good point. One of the takeaways that I had after pointing through this, and it's a very big survey. I agree with Elaine that everyone should read this.
We're on section 1, right?
Well, yeah, this is page 14. That so many of these are interconnected, and so many serve as predictors for other behaviors. Right, lower grades, higher risk of experiencing physical violence and engaging in risky activity. So I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that it's sort of a web of interconnectivity, and that some of these things on the surface might seem like they are things that the suggestion was to maybe delete things that we can't control, but they do serve as data points. And I think that that's a really important takeaway from this, is that it's such a comprehensive survey. And I mean, I even had a conversation at home about all of these things that one related to the next and related to another, and that the idea is to minimize this. And so then my follow-up question, if I can, this is to you, is in what way do the results drive dissemination of into the curriculum, professional development, building policy, counseling? I mean, how does this get tied into actual schools and in our role as a district?
Can we come back to that question at the end of the whole presentation?
Yeah,
Because I
that's
think
gonna
that's
address a
more
lot of issues.
all-encompassing. So I'm not saying,
Understood.
let's get through the data, and then those broader philosophical questions we'll ask.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah.
All right. Again, stress staying the same that we've seen over the years, that obviously students are reporting, school is their stressor, so to speak, but it is also their full-time job. I guess to answer those questions of what are we going to do to help people deal with that stress when it's right before an exam and things like that, and that's something that we do work on.
Not
so
just
what it,
before an exam, though.
but one
That was just an example.
One example to move on to get through the data and then answer those questions after. So what are students reporting that they're doing? Exercise, watching TV, and eating to reduce some of that stress level. And then we're going to depression and suicide. Again, leveling off on that. I'm going to say that since we've taken these in 2002, actual attempted suicide has declined, but Neshoba, since joining, we joined the Emerson survey in 2012 and then do it every 2 years. The levels have generally remained stable, as you can see there. So we're not seeing an increase or decrease, they're pretty much staying stable. Again, consistent with the aggregate data on there. Is worried about peers harming themselves. They're reporting 50-50, so to speak. Was told by peers and did tell an adult, and then some are saying that they didn't, and it's kind of 50-50 on there if they're going to tell somebody or not. And that goes back to that trusted adult that we're at 75%. Self-injury, what we mean by that is it's cutting, burning, or bruising themselves. Again, we're seeing the same data that we've pretty much seen, except for 8th grade, there was a dip and it increased a little bit. But 87% are saying that they're not injuring themselves.
I have a question about the trusted adult. So the percentage of students that said they had a trusted adult went up as they got older in the school.
Went up as they got older.
Which was counterintuitive to me. Why do you think that is the case that kids in high school feel?
Because they know. Paul should probably speak to that.
Well, I think they're doing like more risky behaviors in terms of the severity of risk of things that the high schoolers might be doing than the middle schoolers. I always thought that the younger the kid, the more open the relationship was.
They're building relationships though in high school. We've got 4 years of the same staff members.
Okay.
You're building relationships there, so they're building trust at the same time.
Plus, I had a situation several years ago, I don't even think I was on the school committee, and I talked to one of the principals because of a situation with a student. And it was very confidential, and he connected that student with a teacher that he thought that the student might be responsive to. And over the course of a couple of years, they became, it was just like watching out for the kids. So I would think I was surprised. I just shared it because I don't know where to go with it. I don't want to do anything, whatever, with the information. And that's how it was almost like it was just, that's the way we do it. We find a trusted someone that the kid might respond to.
I'm not sure why that wouldn't happen in middle school.
I don't know that it doesn't.
It's a difficult time, but
I don't know that it doesn't, though.
Yeah, I don't think more like in the middle school advisory. Do you have advisory at the middle school? Do you have advisory at the high school? And those are relatively new, and the purpose of those is for the students to have an adult that is a point person. And then some kids, as Mike said, develop relationships with certain teachers, and teachers often see the child that is not with anybody and reach out. So there's a lot of in that dynamic going on. And when the kids are, and this only starts in 6th grade, and that's when the kids start having multiple teachers.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because, like Lynn was talking about or you were talking about, what role does the school actually play? What can we control versus what can't we control?
Right.
It seems like a relationship with an adult and in reporting behaviors and trusting with behaviors, that might be something that the schools can address.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
Social media, as we know, that we're on social media quite a bit. Accounts. 70% of Neshoba youth said they have social media accounts. Their parents or guardians don't know about. That doesn't mean that they, for example, they're asking any social media. So parents may be aware that they have Instagram, but may not realize that they opened up a Facebook account. So it's not just that they don't understand that they're on social media at all. So just wanted to clarify that. And also, 22% of the Neshoba youth at some point found themselves in unwanted or risky situations because of the information that they shared electronically. We know we don't always think before we send, and that could be part of it as well. Sexting is another one, slightly higher than the aggregate. Involves electronic sending or receiving of sexually explicit messages. 21% of Neshoba surveyed admitted to sexting in the past year. Pornography was another one that was asked, and again, that's remained the same as it's been in the past. 32% of youth surveyed said that they have looked at pornographic materials in the past 30 days. Again, with social media, things pop up very quickly, which can contribute to some of that, with their honesty of that. Online fantasy football, that's remaining the same. It became popular for a while, and it's kind of still there. Bullying, again, we're somewhat maintaining. 7% of the youth said they'd been bullied during the year, and 2% said they had bullied others. Again, we've maintained at the high school the same level. 8th grade, on a few of these, it seemed in 2004 there was a dip, went up, and it's back down again to where we need to be. Cyberbullying, again, we're down in Neshoba compared to the aggregate data for the other districts. We're saying about 5% of Neshoba youth surveyed said that they were personally had been cyberbullied, and 1% admitted to bullying others.
Kind of impressed that kids were admitting to it. Honestly, that means they know it's wrong.
And we're on section 5 here. We're moving right along. Violence. There we go. And then feeling safe at school, and our students are reporting that. We're a little higher than the aggregate in certain grades, but definitely for the overall the same. Being hurt physically, sexually in the content of alcohol, other drugs, that means if we're under the influence of drugs and alcohol. For Neshoba, 23 youth reported experiencing physical violence in situations involving alcohol or drugs, and 7th youth reported. A total high school is just at 2%. And then we're going to go into sexual behavior. Again, we're slowly declining on sexual intercourse, and also use of contraceptive has remained the same as well. Oral sex has remained the same as well within our youth in the schools. And then again, asking the question if a parent at home is talking about sexually transmitted diseases or HIV, or talking to their youth. And again, 6th graders are reporting a high incidence that they're not getting information at home over the past month, and it's again remained somewhat the same. There's not a lot to report on that. So our last is tobacco, alcohol, and drug use, which, as we heard earlier from Citizens Report, there was a concern, and we are seeing the numbers here as well. Again, not surprised in our district, which is why we were acting as a district as a whole to address these issues before we even received this data, because we're hearing what other communities are facing. We're all in the same boat, so to speak. So huffing, again, is at an all-time low. Cigarette smoking continues to go down, but as we know that went down, the nicotine use has gone up with the vaping. Chewing tobacco, again, has gone down or stayed the same. And then this is the data that we're seeing a climb in, is your vaping. So we know that vaping has doubled since 2016 in the aggregate as well. We're seeing that across our aggregate, we're seeing it across the nation, we're also seeing it across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. For Neshoba, other than tobacco, the 2 substances Neshoba youth surveyed for most vaping included flavored nicotine and marijuana products. And we added those questions to the survey this year to break it down a little bit more rather than just e-cigarettes or vaping, because we didn't have those questions. So when you look at some of the questions and why do we eliminate and why did it bring some in, the research company was really instrumental in making sure that we didn't change the validity of some of our questions, so our data would still continue over time. Some of the questions that we really felt needed to be removed were just really outdated. Steroid use was one of them that we're not seeing that, and we continue to see over the years, not just the Emerson survey, but it was one of those that just felt that it wasn't needed to be asked anymore. It hasn't changed in 15, 20 years. So it was one of those that, as a group. And we are meeting next month with the research firm and the group that worked on these to start planning for the following years and also to go through this data. Alcohol consumption, again, is going down as well, or maintain the same in some instances. So alcohol consumption has declined steadily over the past decade, particularly among high school youth. And this data that they supplied for us is what the perception of students feel that others are doing. And again, that's just perception of if they feel that other people are actually consuming alcohol and or consuming marijuana. And for the marijuana, at some point in their lives, 13% have done so in the past 30 days. 5% of 8th and 12th graders have used marijuana on school property, per their report. And 4% of high school youth have used some form of synthetic marijuana in the past 30 days. Again, the next one is just the beliefs about their peers doing that. And then as far as other drugs or cocaine, they are on the cocaine has declined steadily over the past 15 years for the aggregate and for us, as well as other illicit drugs is not widespread in school districts, particularly in this survey that they've seen. And what they mean by other drugs is your methamphetamines, heroin, and DMAs and stuff. And misuse of prescription. Some are reporting, again, 8% of the youth surveyed at some point in their lives use someone else's prescription, and then the other 7% is that they've taken more of their own. And then they gave us reasons here for misusing prescription medications and to help reduce stress, to complete my schoolwork, etc. And again, yep.
Am I on 75? Okay, wow. So, I don't even know what to say about this chart. This on the left. This is upsetting to me. To help reduce stress, to complete my schoolwork. I don't know what the heck other reasons are. I caught it. I don't blame, and I want to make it really clear, I don't blame the schools, nor do I blame the district on help to reduce stress and help to complete my schoolwork, but it just reinforces.
Now keep in mind that you're looking at, like, make sure you read that above, that paragraph above to make sure that the connection is there.
Yeah, less than 2% Neshoba surveyed have misused specific anxiety and or opiate medications, with the most popular choices being Xanax and OxyContin. Neshoba youth who misuse prescription drugs have a variety of reasons for doing so, most often to reduce stress. That 71% is why they do it, not that percentage is doing that.
It's this of this.
I'm talking about the 71 that they're saying I'm doing it to reduce stress. Whoever it is that's saying it is saying I'm doing it.
But we only have 2% that are using it.
I know.
Right,
I know, but that
2%, 71 is others saying, right, that they're using it to reduce stress. It's not 71% of students in the district are using prescriptions to reduce.
Is the aggregate also 2%? I can't find that. So I realize it's a percentage of a percentage, but if the aggregate percentage
you want to look on the left side for the specific opiate and anxiety medications that they're using, and then yes, the aggregate is underneath. But the aggregate is only 951, and we're at 93 that reported.
Right. But
that's your 2% is 93.
I'm just saying, I get it's a percentage of a small percentage, but we're still way over indexing compared to the other schools.
The reasons why.
Yes.
The reasons why.
The reasons why. That's what I'm concerned about, is the reasons why. And again, one second, Lynn. And again, it's not, I do not think this is the school's fault. I do not think this is district's fault. I think it's part of it is a function of the communities that we live in too, and the pressures and the stressors But I would really love to see more done on that whole stress issue.
So these are prescriptions, everyone. So are these prescribed to the kids, or are they going out and finding their own self-medication?
Or their parents,
misuse,
or whatever.
so
it's misuse. So
It is, I mean, it could have been prescribed to them. and
It could have.
Misusing them.
Correct. We don't know.
We don't know. It's a
But it could
variety of
also
things.
be like a family thing, and so I'm back to my question of, you know, it kind of goes to what you're saying. I mean, there's a disconnect where there's just way too much information to throw at parents for this thing, and it's, okay, so how does this affect me? And as benign as caffeine is or isn't, I wouldn't know as a parent, okay, should my child not be taking caffeine? I mean, and I keep saying caffeine, it's probably the less of all the evils here,
But they're all addressed in our health education curriculum. So as we see, caffeine is addressed. I spoke with Matt at the high school, which is great that he's going to be sitting and revamping the health curriculum. But saying that, that was one of his concerns, which is probably why I highlighted, because we just had the conversation last week when I was, you know, checking in to make sure that we're addressing all these issues in their health curriculum. And they are. And we're also looking at starting at a younger age. So caffeine is addressed. It's also addressed for those healthy choices that we want students to make, and making and having those less risky behaviors. And what happens, and I'm going to go to a little bit of that caffeine or the vaping, we have the foundations are to discuss those healthy choices in all of our health education classes, as well as our PE classes that address these issues. And then there's always those fires to put out, and vaping's one of them right now.
I think, Lisa, not to interrupt you, but I think what Lynn is getting at is, but the kids are learning that, and that's what we're sharing with them, but the parents are not necessarily, is that part? I mean, the parents are not aware of the issues that the kids are learning, and I understand the parents aren't in school, and I understand that we're probably going to be asking you to do something to help parents across the district, but I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, that's the disconnect. I mean, it's like, it's not all on us. I mean, these are either learned behaviors or something that's sought out through, you know, their peers that, you know, hey, try this will help you. But I probably not had to believe as a young kid. But even this less than 2%, I'm wondering how many of these have been, I mean, are these known prescriptions? Like, we know that less than 2% of the school is on these medications to begin with?
No, we don't know that.
You're not going to know that.
Well, actually,
these are self-reporting. These kids are self-reporting.
No, and I get that, but according to the policy that we just did on this stuff, I mean, they can't bring anything into school. So, I mean, this is all, even if it works.
But this isn't saying you're doing it at school. Right? Okay, Kathy, go ahead.
Right, a couple things, please bear with me.
She said it to me.
No, the whole, this is the first time that this new administrative team has, in this district, has had to respond to this, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. And it's a lot of information, it's very dense. I think Lorraine might have said, you know, so what do we do with this? And so you can put the whole thing out there, but an executive summary that is created by you folks would go a long way. The other thing is that there are a lot of things, just talked about the curriculum, we have the mental health first aid. I mean, there are a number of things that are already in place. Even the vaping, there was a district-wide, 3 meetings, 33 people came. So I think to let folks know what the district has in place, what the district has done, what we will continue to do is important. The other thing is that there's a correlation. There's a group that tends to get buried in districts like this. And I kept seeing it over and over again with the at-risk behaviors. Those students most likely to engage are kids with low grades, lack of engagement. It is all, and there's a list that of characteristics that these are the kids that tend to be most at risk. And I bring it up when we look at the MCAS scores. You've got that small percent of kids who are not making effective progress. And at some point, to have a conversation, to do a deep dive on what that means and who's involved. Because unfortunately, when you look at those characteristics, many times these are the kids who don't have a trusted adult, whose parents are not there for them for whatever reason. And as a school district, I feel that we have a responsibility to those kids because they're the ones that are most at risk for the drugs, for the unprotected, I mean, it's all there. So I don't know how to address it. It has never been addressed, as far as I know, in this district before in a way that really, I'll use the word made sense, but that's the dilemma we have. A lot of these things, prescription drugs, we're not handing them out at the door. You get them somewhere, but you may get them at school, so it might happen to you, but again, people are asking us as educators for guidance, advice, and what are we going to do? And it's a big pile of stuff to deal with. But it's just, to me, it's just as important to start to address it as it is to make sure that kids have the academic skills they need to be successful. And it's not going to happen, I don't see it happen in a month or a year, but to begin to take a chunk this out to address it.
Yes.
I think Elise is fine.
Well, I mean, Kathy, you said a lot of what I would want to say. But I think what's really critical with these is I mean, all the rich detail is really important, but not to get so bogged down into individual data points, but look at it holistically. Because when I think about, caffeine, it's like, yeah, well, caffeine doesn't really matter. But if you have a bunch of kids, for example, that are drinking a ton of coffee because they're exhausted, because they're doing so much homework, or they're not getting enough sleep, and then you have kids who say, I'm using drugs because I'm stressed, and you have other kids who say, school is my biggest stressor, and of course it is. Like I think it was Todd who said that, or whoever said it was their full-time job. Of course, that's the biggest stressor. But when you start to put all those pieces together and you say, is there a culture or is there something going on with a certain group of kids, who, especially in a high-achieving district like we are, where stress is contributing to a whole host of behaviors or anxiety about, whatever, about school, and to continue to use those data points as we make decisions that seem, I don't even almost want to say this out loud, I'll probably get yelled at. School districts around the country, for example, are pushing back start times for middle school and high school. And they're finding that kids are now getting 9 or 10 hours of sleep and their academics are improving, And so some of these things I think need to feed into, as Kathy was saying, those bigger discussions about what are some things that we can start to talk about or things that we can start to change that address, some of the things that were brought up tonight in citizens' comments, some of these community concerns, but also using this to feed into richer conversations with our communities. Because I know we had the vaping conversations, vaping keeps coming up, and only 33 parents came. And that doesn't mean that parents don't care about vaping, but did we ask parents first, what would be the format that you would want this in, or how do you want this information? I'm not saying we didn't, that's a legitimate question. And maybe there was some reason why, parents didn't come, and it's not because they didn't care or they didn't want to know, but for whatever reason, something didn't work out right. And so if we have more of those community conversations, how can we sort of have these dialogues as communities? Because was it Kathy or Lynn, both of you, that said it's not just the school district, it is a community responsibility. But we need to be talking to each other in order to make that happen, I think.
All right, so Mike, you had a question. Do you feel it's been, no, it hasn't been. So, and I don't know that we're going to get the answer right now, but go ahead.
Right. So my question several minutes ago was just really to the point of others that have spoken, but to what extent does the district use this data to affect change? Whether it's curriculum or whether it's, hey, as a counselor to a high school student, these are the kinds of conversations we need to start having. We need to phase these in. How do we inform teachers about what's happening? I mean, I'm looking on page 8 that there's an at a glance. So if we look at the aggregate data for vaping and marijuana consumption, that's 99 and 118, we're 50% higher than the aggregate. Right, so the aggregate is 20% of students in the high school, we're at 30%.
The high school is but the aggregate is including all of the grades, so the Neshoba total is right on target. We're both at 20%. So if you look at the second column after the aggregate,
the second column
data
is
is all of Neshoba
Mike.
district, and the aggregate is all of the districts. So the next three is, it's singled out, 6, 8, and then the high school. But if you look at the aggregate of some of the other districts, their high schools are probably at 30% as well.
Okay.
So just wanted to clarify that we're right on the aggregate. We're seeing this across everywhere. There's not a school meeting that you go to in another district that's not addressing the same issues that we're seeing.
Okay, so fair point, but how do we, is it a passive survey where we're just sort of saying, here's what a snapshot of our district and our kids?
No, I don't think so at all. And I can take that, and maybe Paul, you might want to add something to this. Lisa, you can certainly fill in. But so there are a number of different ways. I don't think that this is ever. I just speak for the 2.5 years I've been here, but this has never been a survey that is shelved and never seen the light of day. We refer to it consistently. And you know, whether it's changes like if you heard Lisa speak earlier talking to Matt Ettinger about, you know, how's this playing out, how can we make, how does this help us to drive our curriculum at the high school, make changes. So I think we consistently use it. For me, now I could be wrong, but I see this as a document that is ever supporting changes that we're making in the district. I don't think it's ever, and I think even our principals would say, it's never a document that just sits and gathers dust. So for Neshoba, it's something that is alive consistently.
So to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that.
No, I know, but it gives me a chance to say that, so thank you.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying how.
We've had some small working groups at the high school currently when the data came out, but and again, it's been within the walls of certain rooms just to start peeling this away, because again, as you can see, there's a lot to go through. We had a meeting with some administrators at the high school, and the next, if you want to speak about the next level that's going to happen there.
So what Lisa's referring to, Michael, is I asked my assistant principals, my athletic director, my guidance director to look at this information for a day, just try to spot trends, to look at the predictors that you were speaking of. And then I have a second group that I work with. This is the Culture and Climate group that came and met with the subcommittee on policy. And this is a group of guidance counselors, health teachers, classroom teachers, school psychologists. They've looked at it as well, and today we were planning for our January 3rd faculty meeting, an activity that we can take this data, use it with staff, break it down in kind of digestible pieces for teachers, and to look at the question that I think Elaine had posed, what can we control? How does this directly relate to, you know, these 6.5 hours that we have kids in our school each day, and what can we do? Can we move those predictors? Can we work with kids that there's 85% of the kids have a trusted adult in the building? Well, can we identify those other 15%, of students who don't, and try to work on that? What does that look like in a classroom? I think there are a lot of good programs out there, and we've certainly brought some of them in this year. I think of the MVP program in health. I think of the Challenge Day program. But it can't just be left up to a special program. It's really has to be woven into what we're doing on a daily basis with kids.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, I want to wrap this, guys, really quick. We have got a jam-packed agenda. If we need to revisit this again, we will, but make it really quick. Something's already been said, let's not reiterate it. You've got something new, share.
So this is basically, it talks about damaging behaviors, whether they're illegal or not, right? So I agree with most of what Kathy says, but it's not just at-risk kids. I mean, based on stuff that we've had before, it all comes down to the kids that have something to lose are the ones that have the consequences. It's a totally different conversation about, you know, cause and effect, and you do this, but mostly this is about damaging behaviors, not all of them being illegal, but again, as a parent, I don't know what caffeine does to a kid. But
all right.
It's another.
So your point is taken. No, I'm not shutting you down, I'm just saying, at this point, we're kind of talking circular, we're kind of saying the same thing. So, you have something, and then...
Yeah, my only comment is, we're only part of the solution. And we're working at that part of the solution. But once again, I have to refer to the big vaping thing, because that's in the news these days, and everybody.
Well, that's because it's happening.
And I know it's happening, and everybody is getting all up in arms. Well, what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do? We're only part of the possibility of what has to be done. There have to be other participants with us who have grasped some of the things in this study, who take some of the other parts of responsibility.
So I think where we've landed is if y'all can come back and explain to us or share with us what your approach is going to be in order to address some of this, and then I would respectfully ask on behalf of the school committee, I think I got head nods, that we prepare some type of an overview for parents so they can understand. And I think, Lisa, I'm not going to suggest this. I'll wait, because I don't want to create a storm over here, but, for parents who are interested, maybe they have a place to go to make phone calls and ask. Mm-hmm. And if you see, a mass, then think of something else. But I think we just need to wait to hear from you folks. You've heard all the comments here. Where do we go? Where do you go from here? Where do we as a group go from here? And how do we engage?
The last comment I'd make is just, I think you hit it right on the head. We've been proactive. Mm-hmm. Consistently. Yeah. And so, what we can do is we can come back with an executive summary, and we can come back and say, here's the work that we're doing. These are the things that are ongoing. So I think that we can certainly bring that back.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lisa.
And I really appreciate the comments around the table, too. All right, we're going to move into the digital learning update now, or the MSBA SOI update, and then we're going to talk about what we're doing with digital learning. And I know you folks are here for that.
So what are we doing first?
Let's do the SOI. Let's move through that.
The SOI. Okay, so I don't think that I necessarily need to read the letter on air unless you don't really need that for me to do that.
Just give us an overview.
The overview, in essence, basically, is that we were denied for this particular go-round of, and I sent all of you an email earlier about that. What was said to me, because they called me first and then they sent the email out later. They said that they would not suggest that we change anything on the SOI. They said if the question comes up, was the SOI enough? The answer is yes. If the question comes up, was the tour enough, or do we need to do something different? The answer is no, the tour was absolutely spot on. There's nothing else. It was enough. So we don't need to do anything more with that. So in essence, if we want to move forward, she said to me, really, you could take that exact same SOI, change the dates, change the fresh signatures, and resubmit right away to us. I'm not so sure that that's how I would like to approach it, because we've had the oil tank, we've got a couple of other things that I would like to add now to it. But I don't want to move ahead without your support. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to make the changes and then bring back in like January, for example, January 30th or February, because it's not due until April, but we might as well, if this is what we want to do, then please give me the direction tonight. I will go back and make some revisions, and then I will bring it to you for full submission with all the appropriate language sometime in late January, February, if you would like me to go forward. The only thing, she said, honestly, the only thing is that there were a couple of schools kind of ahead that just had a little bit greater urgency.
They go through the queue more than one. Like, this is not unusual that you...
Absolutely not.
You go through the queue.
I'm incredibly proud as I sit here tonight saying what I'm saying. We don't have to do anything more. She said, we recognize your need, we recognize the urgency, and that's really what we're looking for. So I feel very, very good about where we're at. You're absolutely right. I put forward, I would recommend that we do this again, just with some minor changes to the SOI.
Okay.
So I move to authorize the administration to prepare the MSBA SOI for Neshoba Regional High School.
Is there a second?
Second.
Elise did. Anybody have, okay, make them pertinent. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I would just say, maybe we don't have to submit it too early, because there's probably a chance something else could happen in the
That's an
meantime
interesting
that we would
point.
want to add. So,
Great
All right.
suggestion.
Do we necessarily lose anything by, I mean, is there anything to gain by not doing it or to lose by doing it again? I don't think that there is.
What?
Correct?
Was there anything to lose?
Is there anything to lose by submitting it again or to gain by not submitting it? Right, so you're saying, with your permission, that, let's move forward, but why wouldn't we? I guess that's my question.
Honestly, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't.
Okay.
I think that our communities recognize our need. I mean, I hear that when I'm out and about. People know where we're at, and I think that there's good news with this, quite frankly, because to your point, it gives another year where other things will happen, and we can just kind of keep track of it, and it just helps to further build our case.
All right. All those in favor?
Right, thank you very much.
Unanimous, thank you, moving on. Okay, so here's the deal. It is almost 8 o'clock by the count here, and that's not even taking questions on the digital learning update. We have at least another 40 minutes plus an executive session. So you guys have to decide if you can, assuming the entire school committee has reviewed the document. I'm assuming if you have questions or comments, they're queued up. I'm hoping so, for the digital literacy. And if we move forward with this, I'm gonna ask that you just hit the highlights so that it allows us to ask some of the questions, and it may mean we need you to come back because I'm gonna have to time box it.
So, and we'll bring Joel and Laura, were also key components in this, so feel free to join us at the table if you'd like to. And Todd, we'll turn it over to you to hit the salient points.
Good, so I've included the presentation in your packet
She as
that
well.
I'm gonna roll through. I've also, very similar to the communication plan that I prepared for you earlier in the fall, it's a same setup in terms of what we are currently doing, in terms of moving ahead, and in terms of also a timeline. So I wanted those to match for you. And then I've also included an article that Joel Bates provided for all of us from the International Data Corporation, which is partnered with Google on the economic value of Chromebooks for educational institutions. It's leisure reading for you at your leisure, but it talks specifically to part of the reason why we've chosen the technological devices that we have. I want to thank Chi and Laura Friend and Joel Bates, Caitlin Angelo, assistant principal at Sawyer, for helping out, Cindy Larson as well. She's unable to be here tonight because she's under the weather. So and the biggest piece that I want to talk about tonight, because I think that is you folks will be most interested in, really is the technological infrastructure and the digital device itself in that plan. I think all fall I've been speaking to digital literacy, digital learning, safety and citizenship, as well as communication. So I really want to tie into the plan that we have rolled out for the device specifically. But we've identified 4 areas of focus: the device, digital literacy, safety and citizenship, as well as digital communication, in terms of the 4 areas of focus for our digital learning in the district. And I've identified the objective in terms of educating all of our learners through enhanced communication and collaboration and organization to develop those skills to really be responsible citizens.
Now remember that she had said that everybody should have read this by now, so we're just wanting to hit the really key points.
This is the review in terms of defining digital learning and the essential skills that are there. But I want to speak specifically to what we're currently doing and what we've done this fall. And a visual for all of you: in the K through 2 classrooms, we have iPads that kids are using. In our 3 through 5 classrooms, we have Chromebook carts that are located in all of our 3 through 5 classrooms across the district. And then I've spoke specifically all fall about our 6 through 12 one-to-one Chromebook initiative, where every student is equipped with a one-to-one Chromebook device. That's what that looks like across the district. This is our digital deployment plan, which we really want to take big notice of. And in terms of rolling it out through FY24, FY19 is where we are at now, and we deployed new units to our 6th graders and our 8th graders. And then that's the deployment plan moving forward for next year. We will just have new devices for our 6th grade one-to-one. And then starting in FY21, we are going to have new devices for our 6th graders and our 9th graders. And moving forward, that is how we will roll through. We will have new devices that come to our 6th graders and new devices that come to our 9th graders. Our 6th graders will take those through 8th grade with them, and then they will get new devices when they are 9th graders. So middle school Chromebooks stay in the middle school, and high school Chromebooks stay at the high school. And then they will rotate through that kind of evergreening plan moving forward with our Chromebook initiative. We've also have an estimated cost there. It's about $85,000 per grade. So next year for FY20, we will spend approximately $85,000, and that does cover the device, cloud management, et cetera, that comes with that.
And in fiscal year 21,
we will then move to correct. That would double moving forward. In terms of digital literacy, the things that we've been currently doing in terms of what I've been reporting out all fall, we do have a blended learning format. We are moving to a one-to-one, but it's technology as well as literary resources and books and text in a blended format in the classroom. Continued professional development. Our teachers attended the MassQ conference. That was in the superintendent's update this fall. We continue to explore online educational resources that tend to be free. Commonlit.org is one of those that are free resources that we can access. We have a focus on empowering teachers. And our professional development series this year really is tied into digital notebooks and the use of the Chromebooks, as well as empowering all learners, and we'll end with George Koros' visit here in March on that same theme. In terms of moving forward, we're going to continue to explore on transition to online textbooks. Online textbooks and resources are continually updated. When you buy a textbook, a hand textbook, those aren't updated as much, and we tend to keep those for up to a decade at a time. Whereas online resources, we're able to buy 1 year, pilot it, see how it goes, and we can make a determination at the end of that year whether we want to continue with that or look elsewhere. In terms of being cost effective, we're continuing to expand our curricular resources that are utilized in the classroom, new applications, software in the Google Suite. We're piloting programs to inform our purchases in the future. We're exploring and researching new online educational resources, and we really want to look at moving towards digital portfolios for kids that can travel with them as they age up in the school district. And we do have 2 new ITS faculty that are helping to facilitate our digital learning in our classrooms, particularly in the middle school this year. And they're working two days in the central office, and we are deploying them out to our middle schools to co-facilitate digital learning in the classroom. In terms of citizenship and safety, we offer lessons on digital citizenship at the beginning of the year with the Chromebook. Our content filters are now carrying through to home. When kids bring their Chromebooks home, the same content filter is used at home. Appropriate use of the Google Suite. We're teaching proper online etiquette and ethics, handling of inappropriate communications, privacy, security, continued lessons on digital and media literacy. And commonsensemedia.org is one that we do use in terms of educating students, and it's one that we rolled out to our parents at our one-to-one information night this fall as a resource that's helpful to focus on safety and citizenship. This is really where we're moving ahead, this kind of digital footprint and creating a positive digital footprint for kiddos. And really continuing these lessons, we want them to maintain healthy online presences, the importance of that, maintaining their privacy. You've heard me talk about privacy all fall, and working with vendors who will sign those privacy agreements, protecting their information, asking permission to access and share, and always keeping their information positive online. And in terms of communication, currently we have deployed our one-to-one Chromebook initiative in our policy. It's on the district website. We have an acceptable use in Chromebook agreement. We held our one-to-one parent information night in the fall, this fall in October, which we had about 60 parents show up. We have the new use of the Google Classroom across the district. We have cleaned up our web pages. 1,100 pages have been deleted from the website. Faculty and parent feedback for the new website, digital communication to our community through school messenger, our websites and Twitter feeds, and our school open house nights is in the uses of our digital technology when parents come and visit in the fall. And moving forward, We're looking at our Learn platform that houses all of our applications and software. It allows us to cooperate and collaborate with other school districts and other vendors to get good information on why these things are properly used in the classroom, or why we should purchase them, or why we should not purchase them. They also allow us to pilot programs with groups of teachers for free, outreach and new applications with groups of teachers. Our new ITS faculty will continue to work with our Neshoba faculty in the classroom. We've got a new help desk in the high school media center, which is working extremely well. Instead of students filling out tickets when they have a problem with their Chromebook, they're actually bringing it to the help desk. The help desk is able to help them either solve their problem, or the adult is actually posing that ticket and putting that into our technology department. It has been a huge help in the high school. I know it has made a huge difference in terms of the number of Chromebooks that are actually coming into technology when our adults in our media center know how to potentially fix problems and head them off at the pass. New professional development opportunities for our teachers on digital learning. Our newly updated website will be up and running in January for our district and the schools. We're looking at learning management systems, which house a lot of student information. And then we plan to offer a digital parent night, digital safety parent night in the spring of 2019, this spring.
That's awesome.
And that's that.
How quick did you talk?
Thank you, Elise.
I have a super quick question that you may not immediately have the data on, but as we're moving to more one-to-one, obviously, which is awesome, do we have any data within the district about how many of our students don't have a reliable internet access at home, especially if they're taking their Chromebooks home to do homework?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have that specific data. Do we have that data, Chi, in terms of the number of kids who don't?
I don't think we ever surveyed parents on that. My understanding is we had, I wouldn't say 100%, but very close. Because like if, we talk to school principals, if any particular student don't have access at home, I'm sure one of us would heard that by now, but we haven't.
It's something that we can look into a little deeper. I think it's worthwhile looking at. But my first reaction too is I bet you we're close to 100%. I don't know if we're at 100%, but
what would we do if we didn't give them the? What would we do?
There are a couple options, like couple service providers. Depends on if the student really like free lunch or reduced free lunch. I think there are special programs.
You're right.
The parents can buy the internet access. Or if they still cannot afford it, I think the school can have those, cellular, those kind of data.
It's just that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. What else? Elaine.
Digital safety and citizenship. I want to applaud those slides. I think they're clear, I think they're concise, and the argument for why this is important and why we as the schools need to address this, I think is really clear. That being said, the digital literacy under the curriculum in PD still feels fuzzy. It feels like we're being asked to make a massive investment in one-to-one and other technologies for the sake of replacing what we're currently using. And I would like to see that push further into, I forget the four-step model there.
SAMR model.
Thank you.
I will. I'll be honest with you. I appreciate the question, and I know the question, and I think if there was more time tonight, I probably would have been able to tease that out a little bit more. And the point I wanted to make too at the beginning is that digital literacy is such a tremendous evolution, and I think in the think tanks that I had with Laura Friend and Joel and Chi and the others, we came to that conclusion. It's a new day, there's a new application. It's a new day, there's a new online educational resource. Next year there's going to be, so I think we continue to evolve around that. And so it's baby steps. When I go to a conference, for example, it's just a wealth of information out there. And I think that our message to parents too in the fall was this idea of this blended learning format around curriculum particularly, and not just a complete shift over to technology, because there certainly was a lot of people who value the textbook or value the novel and value how to teach those skills that are not technologically based. So I think that's where we're at now.
There's a lot of teachers that I would imagine probably aren't going to use it if it's just, here you go, use technology, empower students.
And our elementary teachers are still very much, they're not one-to-one. Those kiddos are not one-to-one. So we're in that balance and trying to strike that balance, and it certainly is a shift, and that takes time. So your question is valid, and I feel that too, as it continues to evolve. Yeah.
Todd, this might be a question for you or to building administrators. I'm wondering with the new digital plan if there are certain expectations for teachers to implement different modalities of technology in the classroom, or if it is just another addition to their toolbox as an option, or are there certain things that will be sort of like embedded into the curriculum using that?
It doesn't matter who wants to take that.
Yes,
I think I was going to say any one of us could.
There are multiple on-ramps to using the technology. We talked several times about the idea of, and it's not a perfect analogy, but you learn to read so that you can read to learn. You move from understanding mathematics at a concrete level so that you can use them for abstractions. And I think the same analogy holds true for technology. At our younger grade levels, there are opportunities to use them in scheduled computer classes, but an expectation that some of that follow through happens at the elementary level classrooms. And again, not universally, but where they make sense to learn those technologies. And as that evolves into the middle level, and again, this district has been incredibly supportive and I think progressive in putting technology in the hands of teachers, with the expectation that it is that evolutionary continuum that we're moving from the way that we would have done things as a substitution in the same art to rethinking what that looks like and bringing the world to their desktops and how they interact with that. Would you like that?
No, well said.
She's like, are you kidding me?
All of our teachers are using technology to support and enhance instruction at the middle level, and it has to make sense.
Right.
I give you an example. You spoke about A Christmas Carol. I want kids to have that text in their hand and be reading it, and go to the theater to follow up. That makes sense. But then the teacher also took Pear Deck as a tool and used Pear Deck to help further support the understanding of the learning of the complex text to help deepen their learning and make connections to other texts. And in that case, reading the text in itself made sense, but using technology to enhance the reading of the text and the analysis of the text made sense.
Go ahead, Joel. No, I could give you another example just in our work with the...
We want to watch our time. Sorry, I don't know. We could really talk a long time on this.
Just one other example at the elementary level. Principal Mulcairn and O'Shea and I have had a conversation about what our book rooms look like in terms of a digital footprint as well. So having our book bins with digital sources and using QR codes to access primary sources and articles, and so that there's both an online presence there as well that sort of leverages the information that's out there and available and adds to and complements the book room as well. So another way to...
That's helpful. What you folks have just been talking about is really helpful to understand how it's being used. So I know where you want to go, but today is about understanding the digital literacy plan and approach.
So there's another update?
When we get to budget discussions. Yeah. That's when we talk about the cost of everything we've been hearing for the past several months.
But it's...
Go ahead and say it.
No, it's just, it isn't just, it's
how do you sustain it? It just gets larger and larger. You have to hire more people. Every book you get, you have to take a yearly, you don't own it.
I don't know that I think what they put forward is an evergreen, so we kind of know until the cost of the implements increase naturally as they would through the manufacturer or distributor. We know what we can plan for 5 years, which we didn't know in the past. We were kind of.
With books?
I'm talking about.
Or computers?
I'm talking about that. Yeah, that's what the discussion is on, right? Is on the digital components. So we can start to build a 5-year plan, at least with that component, right?
Can I just say, the what is the article that you posted, the PDF, the one about Chromebooks? It does go into detail about how it saves money.
It does. It does. Which is why I provided it for you in there, because I knew those questions and those concerns would come up tonight.
Remember who paid for the study.
Well, I'm just saying, as someone who does.
Okay. Yeah, Susan, good point. Steve, you're such a skeptic. Cynic.
It laid out a pretty good argument.
That's okay. We need those.
What's that?
I'm teasing Steve. Okay, do you have anything else to share? I see another component here.
That is the exact same plan. It is just written for you. So you have a hard
It's the
copy
exact same thing.
with the timeline of when we are going to implement.
We followed the exact same approach that we did with the communication.
Okay.
So,
There's nothing.
There's nothing.
So we are going to get to a point in our budget cycle where we will start debating this and the cost, Glenn. All right. But I don't think that was the topic for tonight. Tonight was, what are we doing? What is our digital learning plan? How is it being used? How is it being implemented in the schools through the teaching, through the staff and the students?
I do want to commend our middle school principals and our middle school staff, because when I arrived here in July, I mean, the rollout this fall and what they are doing with digital literacy in Chromebooks and the smooth rollout this fall across all those middle schools has been flawless. And it is because of our building principals, it is because of Chi and his team. So it was a lot of work to do this fall and making sure every kid had a Chromebook in hand and that teachers were comfortable with those Chromebooks and using them in the classroom. So thank you to this team.
And I know our doors are always open for anyone to come visit and do some walkthroughs.
We'd love to show up.
Yeah, we need to do that. I think we need to start getting a little more involved in the schools.
We'd love to see you go into those book rooms too. The book rooms are amazing. So
that's good, because we made a big stink about them last year. So
yeah, they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much I appreciate you waiting. I know it's a long night, folks. All right, we're moving on. School committee manual approval.
Okay, at the last meeting, I shared the PSC's recommendations for revisions to the manual. And folks wanted some more time to go through the manual. I did make one addition in terms of the subcommittee, the personnel subcommittee's goals throughout the year to reflect that a review of the school committee manual will also include to review any policies that are new or need to be updated. Still to be added in the appendix are a list of the central office departments and staff, and Brooke will be working on that. The glossary and the school committee members' FAQ are going to be developed by the personnel subcommittee. We're going to use the next several meetings this year to work on those. So I think that we're ready to bring it forward for approval.
But you just said there's a bunch of work that's...
Not a bunch. It's just you could approve it with the understanding that there are 3 documents for the appendix that need to be added.
The school committee member FAQ, the glossary, and...
Central office departments and staff.
I'm not going to approve anything that's school committee member FAQ without seeing it.
Okay.
But I'm good if you guys want to take a vote. Just because I think FAQ is pretty important, especially for people who are...
Well, we would bring it back for you folks to approve. We wouldn't just do it and then stick it in there. I don't think. Mike might, but.
Why do we need to approve it now? Is there a reason?
Because you told us we had to.
I did not tell you you had to. I said you had to work on it.
Okay, we're working on it. So if you want to wait till those are done, that's fine.
Why don't we, that way we don't lose pieces.
Well, it's complete in principle. There are 3 pieces that need to be added.
Is it done? It's not done. Do you guys want to vote? You throw a motion on the floor, and I certainly will help guide it.
I actually, we had made a couple of suggestions from policy, and did you write that if there's a conflict between this and policy, that policy supersedes?
That was early on, wasn't it?
Not in the, that doesn't go in the manual, I don't think.
Well, would any of this conflict with policy at all?
It can't. If you want it to be some kind of a codicil to it, but it's sort of in our, sort of the law of the land, that you don't put anything in that violates.
Well, no, just policy will always supersede.
Right.
We just wanted to make sure, because it was being written in multiple places. And the other thing was the list of issues that the school committee has to review yearly.
Which is what?
Yeah, Dorothy is actually, that's why I CC'd you guys on those minutes. The Dorothy is looking up all the policies that school committee is required to.
I don't know that she agreed to that. Yeah. I mean, I don't recall her agreeing to that.
Yes, I asked her, she said, she was the one that suggested it.
I don't know
I
that
thought there'd be once we've finished all of the revisions to the policies in the sections that haven't been brought forward to the school committee, and then they come forward to school committee and the whole thing is approved, then you can't generate a list of policies that need annual.
Well, no, they actually said in the policy, in the very end, it said, school committee shall revisit this every year. And I think that had to do with concussion.
Right, but not all of the whole manual hasn't been approved yet. So we have to get that whole manual approved before.
So we're gonna wait 3 years until we do that?
It's not, no, hopefully.
Well, there's another year, this is only the second year of doing everything, right? So we're gonna wait.
We've done all the sections.
This is your third year.
No, it's not the third year.
Is it not?
No, it's 1 more year.
No, it's been a year and a half. We didn't start till December.
Oh, my goodness, my apologies. I thought we were on our third year as well.
I thought we were too.
Or 20. Huh? No, because it was halfway through.
Your first year.
Yep.
So
this is, we're coming up on our second anniversary.
Right, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
you're in your third year. So by the end of the year, you'll, right.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But the issue is, I mean, you're gonna wait a full year before you actually not review the ones that should be done.
Okay, so everybody, I don't get frustrated, and I don't mean to shut you down, but we're supposed to be talking about school committee manual approval. Either we're gonna approve or not approve. If there are steps we need to take in order to approve it at a later date, what are those steps?
If you're not in a hurry, why don't you wait until all of these pieces are done and then present?
That's fine.
Do it that way.
And then if you have something in policy that you would like to recommend to bring into it, take it up in policy and have that discussion, I think.
And give it to the personnel secretary.
There are keyword searches you can make once it gets put online through the MASC server. You can do a keyword search and then pull a list from that. Okay. But I will reach out to her just to see if I'm misunderstood.
Are we moving on?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Subcommittee reports, budget and warrant.
Budget and warrant had a meeting today. 2 out of the 3 people were there. And
sound like a local paper.
It was a relatively quick meeting. We just went over the things that we've already seen tonight, the treasurer's reports and the monthly statements, and we decided that we will not meet again until after the budget session, the Saturday budget session.
There's
no need for us
I thought
to
you meant like budget season. I'm like,
No.
Oh, no, we can do that too.
We just take the rest off.
No, we will meet after budget Saturday.
Got it. That makes sense. Budget Saturday. Ooh, I like the way you said that. Okay, CPAC, do you have anything?
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you so much. Correspondence, I think we're pretty good here. Anybody have anything? And on the consent agenda, unless anyone has any concerns, we'll assume that the meeting minutes of December 5th, 2018 and the meeting minutes of November 28th, 2018 workshop are approved, and that the warrants of December 21st, 2018 have all been signed. Okay? Items for next agenda, it's in the packet, on the calendar. I want to commend Alita and Superintendent Clinch because they have just embraced the calendar and it's always up to date. So, can I steal yours?
Yeah, we have.
Thank you. I know, it's awesome. We've got a pupil personnel services update on new programs, the high school report card, which is always a really cool discussion, the high school review FY19.
No, actually, I think that might be an error. We might have made an error today.
That's not the newest, that's not
the newest one, because we took that one item off, but the.
newest copy is in the packet.
That's the handbook that we had mentioned.
Oh, the handbook.
So we're gonna take that one off of, and we're just gonna move that one down to April, I think is what we did. Because it would make more sense, that's when it's gonna be.
It's the program of studies.
The program of studies is a big one.
So
yeah.
when will we receive that? Because that's.
You already have the link to the program of studies.
You sent it out.
Yeah, you sent it out.
Oh.
We're already good on that.
So make sure you guys don't think you're gonna be able to do that the night before. Make sure you review it. We're not selecting classes. We're just reviewing and approving the program of studies and any.
And this is going to be the benchmark meeting because you're going to have another follow-up meeting right after that with potential changes for the new one. So the first meeting, that's why it's on here twice. The first one is kind of establishing the benchmark, just kind of go through, acclimate yourself to it. Paul will be here to discuss it with you, and then he'll come back with his department chair's suggestions.
Is that good? And then, and if anybody has an item for the agenda, let me know, and we'll see where we can put it.
I'm just going to request that Alita send that out again.
Send what out again?
The program is the link?
Program of studies, yeah, the link.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that's it. Now it's time, Kathy, will you get us into executive session?
I'll do my best. I move that
She's
we
got that stuff
adjourn.
cold.
I move that we adjourn the regular session of the school committee meeting to enter into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, superintendent of schools. Committee will adjourn in executive session.
Thank you. And a second?
To include.
Who, what?
Is anybody included in it?
Oh, Superintendent Clenchy. Sorry. Thank you, Alita, again. Let's just buy her a whole ton of Christmas gifts. And a second, please.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, we're round robining. Susan and Elaine, sorry. Steve?
Yes.
Lorraine, yes. Kathleen?
Yes, yes.
Miss Lynn?
Yep.
Elise? I did it, all right? I did it. And Mike. Thank you. Thank you all.